Legacy mode.
So this was shared with me on our Discord, by the way. If you're not a member of our Discord, YouTube members, Twitch subs, whether gifted or not, all of them get access to our exclusive Discord. You just connect your accounts and you can join us, having a great time over there. But this was submitted by a viewer over on the Discord, and it's simply titled, it's a video from Livid, and it's simply titled, Todd Howard Mismanaged Elder Scrolls 6. I'll let him explain. Which I do love. In concept, just being like, take it away, Todd. Go ahead. So I figured we can see just what this is, because my understanding after like skimming the playhead through it is that this is literally just a collection of clips of Todd talking about Elder Scrolls 6 over the years, and steadily becoming more and more bedeviled at how out of control it's gotten. Because at this point, it will almost certainly be, I would guess, 17 years, roughly, since the last Elder Scrolls game when we get Elder Scrolls 6. Because right now it looks like it's probably 2028, assuming no massive delays or anything. That would give it 5 years of production after Starfield, which is fairly optimistic, but that would put it roughly there. Cross-generational title between the PS5 era and the PS6 era. Which, yes, it's going to launch on both. That would bet you good money. Yeah, I think that that's probably what we're looking at. But close to 20 years between releases. And then that would also set them up to probably get Fallout 5 out in 2033 to 2035, putting it also close to 20 years after its last entry. So let's see what he had to say. The candle is lit. Take it away.
It seems like we're probably going to go a decade between major Elder Scrolls releases.
I think everyone should be very patient.
Todd, you sly bastard. Todd, you sly bastard. I think everybody should be very patient. I think this is a clip from 2018, shortly after the
7 years ago.
And also around the same year as Fallout 76, when they were doing a lot of press, which I think is what this was for. And so at that point, he says, it's about a decade. So he's thinking 2021. You poor naive fool. I don't think they even started actually working on it until like probably 2024, realistically. I don't think they started until like after Starfield was out the door, and then they like went on vacation for the holidays, came back, and then I think they actually started. But I don't think they had even like really been working on it at this point.
And that's like...
Welcome, folks. I'm Livid. In today's video, I'm going to let Todd Howard, the director of Bethesda Game Studios, explain why Elder Scrolls 6 is taking so long. Believe it or not, there are some people online who believe that this game is 15 years in the making, that these types of games take decades to make, that when Skyrim dropped on 11/11/11, Bethesda went right to work on the sequel. But I'm going to let Todd Howard refute those baseless accusations. I'll be jumping in here and there to give some of my own opinions too. All right, let's get started.
Yeah, I do think that there is a common misconception that like GTA 6 has been in the works since 2013, and that's not true. They worked on it after they put out Red Dead 2. That's certainly true. But I also think that there's a misconception, which I think is more fair, which is that when the game is announced, they're working on it. I think that's a fair assumption to make. When you announce a game,
Gonna go stir my dinner.
That you're working on it. And I think it's very, very likely that work would not begin until 5 to 6 years after they announced it. Which is crazy.
Yeah, well, because I remember it was a couple years ago on this show where you sort of talked about, you know, your longer-term philosophy for the studio, and that, you know, you were going to do the Elder Scrolls 6 after this other mystery game that was sort of in between. So I guess we now know what that mystery game is?
Yes, it's Starfield,
Okay.
which is incredibly exciting for us. We've been working on it for a long time.
Yeah.
Working on it for a long time in 2018. Maybe he just meant 3 years since like Fallout 4, but...
And you know, it's one of those things where even though we're announcing it, there'll be a time, obviously, where we really show it off and dig deep, and that'll be closer to its release.
Yeah, this is important to understand is also the very, very specific context of the announcement. It was revealed in 2018. In 2018, at this point, Bethesda had not been acquired yet, ZeniMax rather, their parent company, had not been acquired yet, but they were actively shopping around. There was news that there were some interested parties like Vivendi, for example, but they didn't really materialize. I remember making a video at that time where I said I think that they're going to sell. I think that's
Making
why
a big old Thanksgiving meal of corn and
but I think what happened very
gnocchi.
similar to how Bungie greenlit a bunch of projects right before selling to PlayStation to boost the value of their company, at least on paper. I think
it's $5.
ZeniMax also did that too, where they greenlit all
or like
of these live
$7.
service
I think it was like
games to try
$7
and boost the bottom line to also again build out the balance sheet and get more for the company when they sold it. It's why we got Redfall greenlit during this period, Fallout 76, all of these live service games that ended up being kind of disasters. They all came out of this era.
76 was not a disaster, but Redfall was.
There's not a lot. You said it was, I think it was...
You know, I always forget about Redfall. Let's go look at Redfall real quick. Oh. What's up your butt, kitty? Oh, yeah, there's something in there? Yeah. It's a rat, kitty. There's a rat living in my wall. It sucks. Poor kitty. She's like fucking rat. She can hear it moving around in there. Yeah, I'm sorry, kitty. I can't do anything. I don't know where the rat is. Is it a rat? It's probably a mouse, right? No, she can hear it. Yeah, it's a mouse, probably. Yeah, I live in a fifth wheel. They're probably in the belly of my fifth wheel. It's fucking annoying. I never ever see them out here, but because of her. But yeah, I think there is like mice in the belly of my thing because my parents put food in the belly of this thing, and then they just left it in there. Well, we left it in there for 4 years, and now there's just like food down there. I'm sure the mice went and ate the food. I don't ever see them in here, or I would like call an exterminator. But yeah. She can hear them. She can hear them moving in the walls, and it's driving her crazy. She's like, ah. Collect the bounty in the first cab at the industrial outpost at Karanai. No, at Cassiopeia. At Cassiopeia. Yes, travel.
A next generation single player experience. Your time, how you're sort of, you know, you got 3 studios now in BGS. I mean, where are you focusing your time?
Dude, I just saw Rage 2 in the bottom. That's a throwback. You guys remember Rage?
Tend to look. First of all, we have a great team.
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of these people. You know, the average time is over a decade, and they really know their stuff. So it doesn't take me kind of digging in the weeds on everything.
Yeah.
I tend to spend my time up front when we're doing a game. You know,
Yeah.
creatively, what is this going to be? And then as it's coming in, you know, Fallout 76 right now is dominating our studio.
Level 76.
That's the game that's coming out, and we have more people on that project than we've ever had on any project.
When it came out, this narrative changed quick. I don't know if people remember it, but when Fallout 76 came out and was a disaster, it very quickly pivoted and it became Bethesda Game Studios Austin's fault. Because they had bought out this studio that became BGS Austin, and that was their baby, was going to be Fallout 76. And so very quickly it pivoted and was, well, it's an Austin game that Maryland is helping with, but it's not really us, it's them. And then even though nowadays, now that Fallout 76 is more successful and popular, it's doing better with the show, the narrative's shifted again, and so now Maryland takes more credit for it. But it's very funny how the narrative changed.
But then the mobile game Blades is, it's amazing. and that's an awesome team.
No.
Most of them are in Montreal, but we do also do work in Rockville on that game.
You mean that cell phone
That's what I
game?
do as well. So for me right now, I'm still a kid in a candy store. You know, I get to look at all of these games and work with all of these amazing people.
But is it transitional for you?
Hi, Kitty. It's not a good time. I have to get up. Right as you come up here.
100% on that, and now you've
Kitty,
got,
it's a bad time.
feels like
Get
4 or
up,
5
me.
things that are sort of competing for
Well, the other thing is, I think it's from the outside. It's viewed one way. We always overlap.
Okay.
You know, a Oblivion into Fallout 3, into Skyrim, into Fallout 4, and then Fallout Shelter, and doing VR versions.
I think the difference is those projects overlapped, but all of those projects were single player, like narrative adventure games, and they're the games that your fans really wanted. Now the overlap is between like Starfield and then Fallout 76 and then a new mobile game and then probably an Elder Scrolls Online game as well that's I suspect is in early phases, but that's just me. And I think all of this other stuff, including like multiple mobile games, the creations updates for Fallout 4, which has nothing to do with anything except more ways to make money. Like they're overlapping projects, sure, but now it's overlapping like all sorts of stuff that nobody really cares about, you know. And I think that's part of the frustration. I remember both Rages not delivering on promising concepts. Yeah, I think the studio behind Rage 2 also shut down.
Really?
I think. Didn't they cancel the new ESO project?
You could Google.
My understanding is that ESO is still going. The studio that makes ESO, ZeniMax Online Entertainment, Project Blackbird, that they were also working on, that was shut down. Conveniently for Microsoft, it was also a team that was heavily unionized and actively unionizing, and they happened to lay off a lot of people over there. Strange. But that project was shut down. Those layoffs.
It's boring. I'm gonna look for something else.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
I want to watch that execution. That'll make my day better. I want to see him on a public block and get him publicly executed. And I think that would be justice. At what age should you start to see public execution? Well, hold on a second. Don't you agree that more speed?
What seemingly was a normal day, and my teacher, whose name I don't quite remember, came into class late with a ghostly look on his face.
Can I listen to this? It sounds like Nas.
He was a first-year teacher, one of the few black male teachers I think I had all through high school. He was from Colorado, so he had a bit of a Carlton Banks swag, very proper. But he settled us down and then announced that there had been a shooting at a high school in Colorado, and that our school, way in Illinois, might be dismissed soon. I didn't go to a school where I worried about safety that much. This is the South Chicago suburbs in the 90s, and don't get me wrong, gang violence was definitely a thing, even in the suburbs back then. But in my school, at worst, there were a few fights. I might have seen some gang activity once or twice. So it was weird to all of us that this shooting was significant enough in a whole state across the country that they were going to cancel school here, or that anything about our school in particular would need to change in the aftermath of the Columbine massacre.
Eerie sight to see so many sort of scenes from an everyday school event. You see kids walking around in gym attire. You see students still working out with their weight belts on, and you see a lot of tears. But the most striking vision here at the school is parents searching around frantically for their children.
Now, I understand gang issues have been relevant to the city of Chicago for decades. I wasn't even allowed to wear a certain color combination since like 5th grade because even in the suburbs, the gang problem was serious enough for me to pay attention. I had to learn a handshake or two to walk through my neighborhood just to get to school for a short period of time. But I didn't know any serious gangsters, right? I wasn't in the streets like that. And the streets that you would have to be in like that were not near me. But I do vividly remember stories of Yummy Sanderford, Dantrell Davis, and Girl X. Horrifying stories of crime in Chicago in the 90s, but far enough away that I didn't think about it in my daily life. At the same time, it did reflect enough of my world that I understood that I was still somewhat a part of it. But I didn't fear it at school. My high school was pretty decent. It was well mixed at the time, both racially and socioeconomically. There was a handful of rougher kids from the city who went to school, but that was it. I worried more about getting roasted at the lunch table than getting chased home by GDs. But after Columbine, I suddenly had a new fear that I needed to face every day. Random, quiet, edgy white boys. Well, not super random, because one thing that came out of Columbine was that there was a certain type of young white male that was almost always behind these types of events, and they were more common at my school than any alleged thugs. See, much like the black parts feeding into the school, there were also poor white parts, and I noticed early on that the poor white kids at the school did not mix well with the ones from the nicer part of the suburbs. In fact, they were bullied incessantly by those kids, and some of those kids fit the description, if you will. They seemed frustrated with the world in ways that didn't make sense to me, because to me, they were still white, couldn't be that bad. Right? Over the years, I found most of these guys on Facebook, and most of them, I would say, are living useful, healthy lives. Most of them actually have moderate to liberal politics at the end of the day. But a few of them still seem very, very angry. But these days, I kind of get it. Young men like Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, the perpetrators of the Columbine massacre, they, for whatever reason, felt very similar to these boys and men. And they just decided to respond in destructive and horrifying ways. And of course, you know, they weren't the first or the last.
Students also say that members of the small suburban gang bragged about their guns and ammo. One cyber chatter even recalled a previous warning that a certain El Caress wrote about preparing for the big April 20th. You're all gonna be sorry. Terrorism experts widely know that this time of year has been extremely violent throughout history. April 19th is the anniversary of many painful moments, from Waco to Ruby Ridge to Oklahoma City. And this past April 20th was the 110th anniversary of Adolf Hitler's birthday.
April 20th might just turn out to be a watershed date for an event such as what occurred in Colorado, and might in the future precipitate other types of events like this.
In 1999,
Hitler's
Columbine
birthday
was actually the fourth school shooting to get significant media coverage in around 4 years. A few years before, Kip Kinkle shot 20 students a day after murdering both his parents in Oregon. In that same year, 2 middle school students set up a sniper's nest and pulled the fire alarm at Westside Middle School in Arkansas, killing a teacher and 4 middle schoolers. Sometime later, there was another shooting in Georgia, or maybe it was back in Colorado.
I didn't hear about the middle schooler one.
For some years, and it's a guy driving a car through a college in California. It's hard to say. There's so many, and to be honest, I personally stopped counting them the way I did back in 2012 in Newton, Connecticut, because that's when I realized that no matter what happened or how many people died, nothing was ever going to be done about this problem. In 2012, Adam Lanza used a Bushmaster XM15 to kill 27 people, 7 adults and 20 elementary school-age children. You would think that such an event would elicit national outrage strong enough to change gun laws in this country forever. That's what happened in other places where mass shootings occur. You'd think that this nation would do some deep reflection on its engagement with guns, mental illness, and the ways young men, mostly white young men, are being socialized to make sure that something this senseless would never happen again. Surely someone would pay a price for the death of nearly 30 innocent people, mostly innocent children, innocent, mostly white children. But no. Instead, it actually birthed a new conspiracy movement. People like Alex Jones made harassing the families of the victims their new content formula, so much so that he was sued into relative obscurity. And once that happened, it became clear nothing would ever be done about these types of spree shootings, because it's more important to serve the interests of gun lobbyists and the ideology that represents it than to serve the people suffering from the gun violence themselves. Because to them, to white America especially, it's worth it.
I think it's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year.
What?
So that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
A source tells CNN that Trump ally and the founder of Turning Points USA, Charlie Kirk, was shot at an event on a college campus in Utah.
Kirk was actually shot in the neck. The school adding that Kirk was 20 minutes into speaking
when shots were fired from a nearby building. According to the university, there are reports that Kirk was hit.
We can hear the audio where an audience member asked Kirk about mass shooters in America right before the gunshot. And the audience member says, do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Kirk says, counting or not counting gang violence, and that is when that single shot was fired.
It is my great dishonor to be the person that says this and breaks this to you on television, but Charlie Kirk, according to the President of the United States, is dead.
My great dishonor. Jesus
when I look
Christ.
at the very public, gruesome murder of Charlie Kirk, I can't help but realize that for the first time since 2012, I'm reminded of this brand of spectacle violence, somewhere between terrorism, true crime, political violence, and accelerationism. But, and here's an important part, almost always exclusively white, both in the victims, but also the perpetrators. It's actually not ideal to talk openly about the perpetrators of mass shootings. I'm gonna break some social mores in this video, among many other things. The reason why I call it spectacle violence is because for the most part, the individuals that do these horrific acts do them for attention. It's why they write manifestos and send press kits to local media. Some have even live streamed their crimes. So talking about them publicly ends up being exactly what they want, and in many ways it motivates copycats. However, at a certain point, I feel like certain conversations need to be had, especially when some of the main people who need to hear these things are trying very hard to avoid the subject. The underlying forces behind these events, behind the murder of Charlie Kirk and even the attempted murder of Donald Trump, are things the right deeply wants to avoid, because talking about these things might force many on the right to critically engage with the ongoing struggle that the right is in with its own ideology and the tangible results that ideology leads to, which, to put simply, is rampant unnecessary death. And by rampant unnecessary death, I'm not just talking about the multiple genocides happening across the world through American imperialism, or the many preventable deaths happening because of poor health care or poverty in America right now. I'm genuinely just talking about normal white people that are dying or killing themselves greatly due to the ideology that the right promotes throughout this country. I believe many modern conservatives, particularly the men, are in a death cult. It's not a hot take to speak to how the party of Trump thrives on the pain and suffering of others, but today, for this video, I want to spend time on the real byproduct of that. The fact that the biggest body counts, at least here in the States, is actually other white people, and that the cult works extremely hard, often using figures like Charlie Kirk to hide this reality, or maybe make it seem like it's all worth it, as we see them do with his death in particular. I had no desire or intention to talk about Kirk because I try my best to avoid these types of things. But in the wake of his death, the right has tried to turn him into Martin Luther King. And
fuck
Charlie
that
Kirk
asshole.
Directly insulted Martin Luther King's legacy.
Yeah, and the Civil Rights Act, though, let's be clear, created a beast, and that beast has now turned into an anti-white weapon.
What?
And that's the reality.
So there's a need for some direct pushback and response in this regard.
Racist.
Also, I have to admit, I'm a bit fearful of the response this might get from the right. They seem to feel like this one time, nobody should disagree with their views of this guy or make fun of the fact that he died, that nobody should make jokes about a person who was overtly hateful and ugly to them. Mind you that in the days after the death of George Floyd,
right up to the day he died, he was being hateful.
George Floyd challenge on social
right up
media
to the second he died,
of themselves mocking
he was
Floyd's
spewing
last
hatred.
moments before his death. And to this day, they are so obsessed with mocking him that they're still keeping him alive through memes and AI. But somehow, Charlie Kirk is where we draw the line. So you guys got that one, sure. With that said, I will forewarn you, this is going to be a pretty gruesome, ugly, hard to watch video at times. I'm going to talk candidly and maybe even flippantly about death and self-harm and mental illness and mass murder and all the isms.
Go!
I have some hopeful things to speak
That's
to.
what I'm here for.
This is definitely a video that will make you feel shitty at times because it made me feel shitty making it. But it needs to be.
This was so good. Thank you.
be done. It needs to be known years from now, when we finally are out of this situation, that many people saw this nonsense for what it was, and will hopefully be there to inform those who don't know any better just who Charlie Kirk was and the greater context in which he lived. Because these ugly times won't last forever, and historical record is needed lest we carelessly repeat avoidable mistakes. So let's talk about Charlie Kirk and the cult that killed him. Part 1, the origins of the culture war.
The American family, liberty, freedom, the Constitution, our history, veterans. That's what we're conserving. You are on the precipice of the most important culture war. Young men do not know how to control themselves. Ladies, would you agree? Oh, don't worry. I'm going to do the whole other side of this in a second, so you better be ready. You better be ready. They're like, oh, yeah. It's going to be an equal opportunity offender.
To understand Charlie Kirk in totality, we first need to understand that he isn't the first, nor will he be the last of his kind. In fact, he's part of a long-standing tradition of right-wing provocateurs whose job is not doing politics the right way, as some dumb asshole might say on their podcast. But instead, he was furthering a far-right agenda in this country, and this is apparent in just how far the right has been able to shift the overs and window in terms of what are even acceptable things to say or believe in our modern society. For example, no American would have supported or even seriously engaged with the idea of a president getting a third term ever since FDR did it nearly 75 years ago. It's literally in the Constitution. However, for weeks now, as of recording, Republicans, even Republican officials, have been seriously priming Americans for the argument that Trump should get a third term and how that's actually okay under the Constitution.
We had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president.
No, he won't. Over my dead body.
Trump to run for a third term. He's teasing that.
I myself will personally show if you try to suspend our fucking due process.
He says he has
that motherfucker, he doesn't continue. He's done after his 8 years like everybody else. I won't let him. Me personally, I won't let him.
Well,
due process like everybody else. All the other presidents left after 8 years. That's what's expected of him. You guys have been talking about that a lot. Over my fucking dead body, he'll leave like all the rest of them left. He got his time. Send some other Satan. Send some other killer. You know, send some other rapist. We need you to change places and switch up the seats a little bit. Call it musical chairs. We're done with this, Satan. Bring the next fresh hell.
But you're open to it.
Well, I think that there's going to have to be an evaluation.
Not even George W. Bush, who was very, very bad. The fact that he's the last Republican president before Trump has managed to whitewash his past. He was not good. Don't let the old painting sad man.
None of them were good.
But as bad as he was, he never would have thought of sending troops in the military and the National Guard to American cities and states that he didn't like. But Trump is threatening to send American troops to low-crime cities like Portland, saying that they need to be cleaned up, ignoring the much more dangerous cities in red states. And the right eats this all up. Mind you, and this will be a recurring theme, none of this is really helping anyone, let alone many of the working-class white people who voted for Trump. While Trump's appeal is more diverse than people like to believe, this is just something you have to acknowledge. At the end of the day, his base, like all Republicans for years, has been among uneducated whites and rural white people. People who, for the most part, have never benefited from his policies. For example, regarding the ongoing government shutdown that is still in place as of writing, the shutdown is happening because Republicans want to make major cuts to many social safety net programs, which will impact poorer Americans. And despite the efforts of Republicans for decades to make it seem like the poor are only undeserving black and brown people leeching off the government, the majority of Americans receiving those benefits are white. And these same white people will support Trump literally to their death. Why is this the case? And what does it have to do with Trump? To make sense of that, I want to dive into the concept of the culture war, because it's through the culture war that all of this is possible. And they know this because Charlie Kirk actually named his college tour the Culture War Tour. So switching gears for a second. If you're at all on Twitter and social media in the months and weeks preceding the murder of Charlie Kirk, you probably caught wind of two other tragic killings. The killings of Austin Metcalf and Irina Zarutska both went viral on Twitter as these were two young white lives ended by black men. Both of those black men, mind you, faced immediate legal charges. I want to be clear. It's genuinely sad, and I send condolences to their families regardless of the circumstances of their death. It's tragic when people die like this, especially when their deaths have become flashpoints in culture wars online. Austin Metcalf's father in particular showed an inspirational level of grace in the aftermath of his son's death that should be commended. Unfortunately, that father's grace is not being copied by the American right, who used his son's death to talk about black fatigue. Not the original use of that term, by the way, but a racist version that is basically white people getting tired of not being able to be openly racist. Similarly, Zarutska's death spurred legislative initiatives to reinstate and even expedite the death penalty in North Carolina, which, yikes, is really all I can say. And this is all after President Trump weaponized the deaths of white women at the hands of immigrants all through his campaign trail as a way to bolster his anti-immigrant agenda. And now we have ICE kidnapping people off the street and even in churches, gyms, and public schools.
I want you to take a look at something that just came about 2 days ago. We made a tape, which I'm going to show you, and it's a tape of a great mother who I got to know a little bit at one of the rallies.
Tonight, accused of killing a 12-year-old girl.
Police say these men strangled her before dumping her into that creek. Both men were in the country illegally.
There are hundreds and even thousands of cases like that, and it's people coming into this country that are horrible people.
And as I saw these stories explode online and invigorate an already foaming at the mouth population of racist conservatives, I couldn't help but think to myself, but what about white-on-white crime? What about Vincent Bolletaro, the young Charlie Kirk fan who murdered two teenage girls whom he had been stalking for what seemed like months, even after getting a restraining order against him, by the way? Bolletaro's family is connected to law enforcement, but clearly they're very picky about who they need to protect and serve. Or what about insert countless other stories of white women murdered by white men since the beginning of time? Gabby Petito, Lacey Peterson, Natalie Holloway, the little girl that, John Benet Ramsey. I've been seeing that girl's face since I was a child. It's actually cursed. Surely other young white women have been murdered in North Carolina. Were their deaths not worthy of attempting to reinstate the death penalty? What is it about DeCarlos Brown, the severely mentally ill black man that killed Ariana, that warrants such a response? Do you think that black men are the most pressing danger to white women in this country? If you do, it's probably because you're racist and low-key sexist, but I know I only have so much room to y'all. You can bet money, like literally, don't make this bet because you'll lose it, that if a young white woman is murdered in North Carolina, it would probably be from her white boyfriend or husband, because all crime in this country is interracial. At least 80% of white victims of violent crime, the perpetrator of that violence is also white. White people make up 74% of familial violence victims, meaning child abuse, domestic violence, and familicide, which makes sense because most family violence offenders are white, and females make up 80% of the victims for family violence, again, usually killed by a boyfriend or husband, very rarely a stranger, and considering that only around 10% of black men have a white spouse, the biggest threat to any white woman in this country by far is a straight white man. And that goes not just for murder, but also assault and especially rape and molestation. Yet somehow, new laws form when a black man is a perpetrator, as if it's the right of white men to abuse, harm, and kill women that look like them. And it doesn't require new laws for putting convicts to death when they do it. And don't get me wrong, the rate of intimate partner violence in the black community is awful in so many ways, but don't all lives matter, y'all? Surely we shouldn't only focus on black people in this situation, not if what we actually care about are these innocent white lives. And isn't this kind of gross? Is this what y'all watch me for? Some of y'all, that's what y'all want out of me. Ugh, I hate it. I hate y'all so much. Sure, when you go low, going lower is a thing, but at the end of the day, bringing up white crime statistics in this way should just really make you feel icky. It's too much like the stuff they do, you know? Further, it's not like any racist in the audience will suddenly be convinced to rethink their ways based on this information. And I'll come back to this in a moment, but this is not how actual minds are changed in reality. If racism or any other ism were an issue of logic and information, would have solved that issue years ago. But it's very clear after literal generations of learning and educating that no amount of explaining the truth to racists changes the way they see things. Racism's power to endure for so long in this country isn't due to hate. I hate that we talk about racism as an issue of hate, because that allows for so many people, so many very racist people, to create distance from themselves and the actual damage they do with their racism, because they don't necessarily feel hatred in their hearts when they do it, and they're probably correct. Racism isn't about hate. It's about indifference to harm being done to people that don't look like you, especially if that harm is useful for how you maintain your own status quo. Racism is still here because it has utility as an organizing social framework for white Americans. The role racism plays in this country is for building consensus and community. It's almost ritualistic in this use.
I'm a Western chauvinist. I refuse to apologize.
White youth for a generation have made racist jokes, not as an expression of hate, but almost as an initiation into whiteness as a concept, performing the agreement amongst each other that blackness is beneath them and unworthy of sanctity. This is why racist group chats exist so prominently, such as the one the young Republicans got caught on earlier this year. This is why white kids on Omegle and other chat random sites and Call of Duty lobbies hurl slurs from the safety of their perceived anonymity, going all the way back to slavery. This is why poor whites had astoundingly low standards of living, but fought for the Confederacy because it preserved their way of life, as wretched as that way of life was. The lynchings of black people during slavery going into Jim Crow was often a community gathering or festival environment for white people. They would make flyers and sell food as they watched black bodies burn and hang from the poplar trees. Then afterwards, some would even take their body parts as souvenirs. Feel free to Google this. I am not making this up. The biggest falsehood about racism is that it's about the hatred of any group of people. But in reality, racism is about a perverse love for whiteness and the love language through which that is expressed. And this is just the overt stuff that whites will admit you shouldn't do. We shouldn't lynch people. We shouldn't say the N-word. They keep doing it and saying it's a joke, but they know they shouldn't. And the reason why that is still such a focus, because it serves as the cover for the much more harmful systemic racism that most whites, including Charlie Kirk, would never even admit exists.
There is nothing fascistic about deporting people in your country that are here illegally, securing your borders, and putting your own people first. How many of you students out there feel as if you'd be graded differently if you come out as a conservative or a Trump supporter? Raise your hand. Look around. That's fascism. That is definitional fascism.
Do you think, for all that I just said, do you think a few cherry-picked statistics and some witty clapbacks is going to change this? No. This is the culture wars.
And busy schedule to meet with us, the grassroots. We're fighting on college campuses every single day. We're fighting for the next generation. And to know that we have the backing of the most successful president of our generation means the world. Because look, we are in a culture war right now. We're fighting for free speech, for free markets, and for American exceptionalism. And to have the president take time out of his schedule to meet with us, to just exchange some ideas, really, really means the world. And look, this is a battle that we're going to win.
And beyond that, we spoke about the black community and black issues.
Backing of the most successful president of our generation means the world. Because look, we are in a culture war right now. We're fighting for free speech, for free markets, and for American exceptionalism. And to have the president take time out of his schedule to meet with us, to just exchange some ideas, really, really means the world. And look, this is a battle that we're going to win.
And beyond that, we spoke about the black community and black issues.
I can't stress enough how important culture wars are to the American right and to American politics in general. And this is because culture wars have effectively replaced actual politics for most people, right and left. But specifically for the right, it has been instrumental in convincing many people to vote against their best interests. When regular people are surveyed about policies, they almost always lean toward more progressive policies, more taxing the rich, less government in people's personal lives, sensible gun control laws, etc. It's not universal. Many Americans support tougher border laws, for example, but very few desire to see what's actually been happening under Trump since he's been elected. Even attitudes on abortion rights consistently fall to the left of Republican policies. Conservative voters constantly vote against their self-interest, whether they realize it or not. And even in moments where they do realize it, they still don't care because, as I've been saying, this is a cult. And the culture wars are their, deep lore text. The culture wars, ironically, are proof that facts actually should care about feelings because people have been using feelings to override facts in this country for 100+ years. There's so many examples of this, both historical and recent. One is that conservatives were more likely to die from COVID due to vaccine hesitancy and resistance to masking. Despite the fact that science, logic, and so much information was telling them that masking and vaccines would save their lives, so many conservatives were literally, I remember vividly, I'll see if I can find the clip, a guy that was on a respirator talking about how he doesn't regret not getting a vaccine or masking, and then he died 2 days later.
I immediately asked Christopher, why hadn't you gotten the vaccine?
Still not completely 100% sold on the inoculation.
It was eerie to hear Christopher insist on his individual freedoms, even as he struggled to breathe.
I think I probably should have been a little healthier there. Need to be taken more seriously. And I don't know how close I am to being a lot worse. I really don't know.
Christopher Green died 9 days after this interview. He was 53 years old.
It doesn't take much to find countless examples of conservatives.
Experience gained, 852.
He was 53 years old.
Received 35 silver, 75 copper. You have learned a new
It
skill.
doesn't take much
Return.
to find countless examples of conservatives directly being
Congratulations.
hurt
You
by
have
Trump's
reached level 12.
policies on tariffs or ICE crackdowns, people's mail order brides being deported, and it's often people who voted for him. And whether or not they regret it is up for grabs. But understand, pointing this out about Trump is low-hanging fruit because it's been everyone since the beginning of time in this country, especially when it comes to conservative ideology. For example, consider free healthcare, something that the rest of the developed world has had for more than half a century, and it should and would be here in America if not for the utilization of culture wars. Numerous American presidents from a variety of political standpoints, going back to the early 1900s, have tried to create a universal healthcare system that was free to Americans, but were stymied by capitalistic and conservative entities using emotionally manipulative culture war methods of convincing the masses that having free healthcare was somehow not in their best interest.
President Truman was reelected largely on a campaign for a single-payer national health plan, and the Democratic Party gained control of Congress. At the same time, Americans were on edge after World War II, and a lot of that fear was placed broadly on the construct of communism. This fear towards communism and communists, which infested the world through the Cold War, became known as the Red Scare. Opponents of the WMD healthcare bill took advantage of these fears to squander its success. The AMA was one of these opponents, and with help from public relations firm Whitaker and Baxter, launched one of the largest lobbying efforts of its time. The group spent over $4.5 million, $48 million in today's dollars, on advertisements, newspapers, magazines, letters, and radio stations across the country. Slogans played on communist fears with titles such as "A Threat to Health" and "A Threat to Freedom," and utilized the term socialized medicine whenever possible. Public opinion in support of government health insurance fell from 74% in 1942 to 51% by 1949, just a year after President Truman was voted into office.
The same thing happened with the New Deal back in the 1930s. Was the New Deal the 1930s? Am I tripping? Don't make fun of me. Yeah, okay. The New Deal was at its core a socialist work program that lifted millions of Americans into the middle class out of poverty. But it only passed because it was initially designed to exclude undeserving black Americans as much as possible. However, after political wins for black people, such as the Civil Rights Bill, fair housing laws, etc., this required New Deal government programs to be more accessible to all Americans. And you see white Americans quickly turn against the very policies that induced the golden age of American prosperity in the 1950s and 60s. Even today, the very idea that people should get free health care is somehow controversial and un-American, even as millions of white Americans suffer and go broke due to health care costs. A fun fact to never forget is that white people poured cement into their own swimming pools to ensure that black people could not swim with them. Conservative political positions are positions to maintain systems of dominance and exclusion, even if those most dominated and excluded are white people, all cloaked in the rhetoric of personal responsibility. Charlie Kirk himself railed against the idea that the government might offer free lunches to school children, claiming that the problem with school children was obesity and not food insecurity.
Do you think that there should be free school lunch for all children?
No.
Why?
Of course not, because parents should feed their kids, not the government.
What if they can't?
Go get a job. Show me a single child in America going hungry. Doesn't exist. Number two, we have churches, we have food shelters, we have billions, and it does not exist. We have a child obesity problem, not a child starvation problem in this country.
Refusing to recognize that those problems are connected and that there's tons of evidence that literally millions of American children need free lunches, and that it would be incredibly beneficial to those children and thus society as a whole to get them. In this clip, Kirk yells, "Get a job," and the crowd laughs because they still operate on the image of black welfare queens, not realizing that the average recipient of food stamps is a single white woman with 2 kids. Mind you, the woman originally used to demonize the concept of welfare and called the welfare queen was a white woman.
Her name was Linda Taylor, and she was identified by the Chicago Tribune in 1974 as a person who had committed welfare fraud while driving fancy cars, including a Cadillac. And very quickly after that, she was given the nickname the Welfare Queen.
It is accurate to say that a higher percentage of black children suffer from food insecurity in this country, something like 20 to 30% of black children, or around 2.3 million kids. And white children suffer from food insecurity at a much lower rate, somewhere around 7%. But we live in a predominantly white country, so that 7% adds up to close to 4 million white children whose parents need to get a job, so the rest of us don't have to pay a few extra dollars on our taxes to help their children not starve and not grow up being statistically more likely to end up dead or in jail. Ironically, paying for school lunches up front means paying less for jails, healthcare, and welfare later in their lives. But because of people like Charlie Kirk, many conservatives would rather those 4 million children starve, if it means those who are undeserving suffer. Even now, as the government is preparing to shut down, conservatives are mocking people who won't be able to feed themselves. But here's the real power of this code, of the culture war. Some of these same people doing the mocking were themselves once on SNAP benefits. Some of these same poor white moms of those 4 million kids are still likely going to vote Republican in 2028. And I want to correct the common sentiment from progressives that says it's because they're dumb. They're not dumb. Delusional maybe, but they just fully believe in the worldview they've been sold. And this begs the question, why and how? These decisions actively make America worse for everyone, not just black people or gay people or immigrants, everyone.
Yeah, everyone.
And most of the people who suffer are white. And many of those suffering also support their own suffering. Why and how? To answer that is super complex, and I don't know all of it, but I know a big factor that brings us back to Charlie Kirk is his role in the culture wars and his job of recruitment and reinforcing of the moral standards of the right by using those culture wars to galvanize and build consensus with their base. And this is most prominent through the media. Today, that is YouTube and podcasts, but for a while, it was TV and radio. And that's where the foundation lies, in media manipulation. To understand that, you have to start with good old Satan himself, Ronald Wilson Reagan, 666. This man is undefeated in how often something bad comes back to him. In this situation, it's the 1987 ending of a policy called the Fairness Doctrine. You may have heard right-wing pundits at times try to make this seem like this doctrine would silence them and make it so they wouldn't be able to have the right to be on air, but that's not really accurate. The end result probably would change the way that all politics are discussed in media. But what the Fairness Doctrine really was making media companies more responsible for the type of topics they covered on air. Essentially, you couldn't have something like Fox News before the 1980s, and the same could be said for MSNBC. Because the Fairness Doctrine basically said that if you have opinions of a political or controversial nature, you have to have both sides of that opinion. And they have to be presented in an earnest and direct manner, unless you could legit get fined by the FCC. Thus, it was hard to use media to exclusively promote any political agenda. There was political discourse in media before then, but it was much more measured and straightforward, more educational, and far less entertaining. Hence the many TV broadcast interviews of political figures, even radical ones like a Malcolm X. With the Fairness Doctrine gone, our politics became another framework for just being entertainment, just as subject to media manipulation and sensationalism in the name of ratings and marketing versus education and seeking the truth. Today, our political media looks more like something from Monday Night Football or professional wrestling, and entire networks of channels can push explicit and clear political agendas. And now there are large groups of Americans who only get their news from overtly biased sources. And no, this video is not sponsored by Ground News, but it is sponsored by Nebula. We can talk about that real quick.
If you're enjoying this video analyzing white culture and conservatives thus far, you might also appreciate the short mini doc I did on Nebula called Talking to White People, which was greatly an influence for this video. Talking to White People has me actually sitting down and having conversations with white people about what it means to be white and how we kind of never talk about this, and also the reasons why we never talk about this. And ideally, this won't be the end of me examining this topic, but only if you support my streaming service, Nebula. Nebula is an independent streaming service created by YouTubers like myself, where we can have a place for creators to work the way we want to work and make the types of content we want to make without the persistent pressures that YouTube puts upon. If you know anything about Nebula, then you know that we've had some of the most talented and forward-thinking creators around, and because we have so much talent on our roster, we have been expanding to say, what if we give this talent the resources to go bigger and better than what they thought possible? And along with my short film Talking to White People, you also have full documentaries from Tom Nicholas, where he examines how the baby boomer generation is affecting the world. There's also short films from Just Agenda and Philosophy Tube, reality shows featuring a bevy of creators, travel shows, even narrative podcasts, as well as a ton of content from legendary creators like Lindsay Ellis and Jacob Geller and real life lore that can't be found anywhere else. It can only be found on Nebula. Nebula is owned by creators and funded directly through you, the viewer. We don't have any big tech dollars propping us up that we have to answer to, and we want to keep it that way so that we can continue to make the exact thing that we want to make and to be as weird and out there as we can. And to do that, we rely on your support. So to help us on this evolution, please click the link in the description or follow the QR code on the screen to sign up for a full year of Nebula for 40% off. And right now, for a limited time, new subs to Nebula, 3 days of a free trial to test and see if there's anything inside Nebula that you really want to see. And you won't be charged until the 4th day, and you'll get an email reminding you in case you want to cancel. I dare you to give it a try. I doubt that within 3 days, you have seen everything you want to see.
You'll be supporting the growth, not just of my channel, but of creators like me to continue to go beyond the limitations of YouTube and modern media as a whole. Ground News shade notwithstanding, the point is that having a balanced intake on what political opinions you bring in pretty much started to die at that point. And then it got even worse because of one more thing. Reagan is the only villain here. You all know I'm bipartisan in my hatred of America's political apparatus. The next major factor is the Telecommunications Act signed by Bill Clinton in 1996.
Today, with the stroke of a pen, our laws will catch up with our future. We will help to create an open marketplace where competition and innovation can move us quickest line. An industry that is already 1/6 of our entire economy will thrive, will create opportunity, many more high-wage jobs, and better lives for all Americans.
Among many other things, what this mainly did was allow for unchecked corporate ownership of media companies, resulting in massive mergers until only a few companies own all of what is seen or heard on our screens and airwaves. So now you have companies like the far-right leading Sinclair Media owning most local TV stations in the country and purposely seeding right-wing perspectives into their coverage and being blatantly manipulative in their efforts to control media narratives, as seen in this Horrifying but real clip of their many news stations reading the same script.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media without checking facts first.
I hated this. This changed me. I hated this. After I saw this, I was like, I don't trust our politicians on either side. I mean, I was always like that, but this made it way worse.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
So with these two things in place, we now have the environment set for people like a Charlie Kirk to wield immense power in pushing cultural narratives and swaying public and political influence. They just didn't quite know it yet. And Kirk comes in the late 2010s, but he's following in a tradition of right-wing talking heads, normalizing certain far-right talking points. And here's where we meet the most important character in the history of the culture wars, and possibly one of the most influential political figures to never hold an office, Rush Limbaugh.
Folks, there's actually a debate going on ESPN and throughout the sports world over who can use the N-word, when, and how. The white race has probably had fewer slaves and for a briefer period of time than any other in the history of the world. What are the similarities between the Democrat Party of today and the Nazi Party?
Rush Limbaugh is greatly responsible for today's political reality. There is no Trump, no Fox News, probably no Manosphere, and definitely not a modern culture war without him. He is patient zero for the awful timeline we're in right now. Ironically, Limbaugh was the failed son of a prominent political family whose only talent was yapping at a time where that talent only had one medium to be successful, which was radio. And Limbaugh loved radio and worked in it on and off growing up until he got to college, and then he dropped out of college to focus on being a DJ full-time in his early 20s and was not very successful until he found his calling as a right-wing provocateur. And this wasn't a new thing for American radio at the time, but to give the devil his due, Limbaugh was extremely talented as an orator.
Barney admitting that he had an affair with Stephen Goby, and he said, quote, "I was just trying to help this guy through some problems, but I got suckered. That's what drove me to My Boy Lollipop. My Boy Lollipop." Perfect. It was absolutely perfect. I don't think that is making fun of the homosexual lifestyle.
Because of the Fairness Doctrine and the Telecommunications Act, the value of his voice skyrocketed and spread throughout the nation. In his book, Talk Radio's America, How an Industry Took Over the Political Party That Took Over the United States, Brian Rosenwald explains how, with the Fairness Doctrine gone, radio stations learned to streamline their content for market optimization, making all-day conservative talk shows a strong branding strategy, partially due to the fact that newer FM radio was clearer and better for music, but couldn't reach as far as AM radio, and listeners were fine listening to lower quality signals for talk radio, meaning that it was rural Americans well outside of city centers that was their key market demographic. Playing into certain conservative and progressive ideologies around people and social issues, etc., was great for galvanizing that community. And this coincided with the aforementioned rise in media consolidation, as well as the vision of people like Newt Gingrich, who recognized where politics would fail, culture wars could prevail. And so what we have is our first ever basically algorithmic bubble, where a whole community of people are cocooned in a specific view of the world without ever being exposed to opposite opinions, and then enriched and radicalized and having everything about that reality turned up to 10 to the point where we are today. We're at a point now where Charlie Kirk is saying things that Limbaugh would have been taken off of air for in the 90s.
Taylor Swift might de-radicalize herself, engage in reality more, and get outside of the abstract clouds. Reject feminism. Submit to your husband, Taylor.
Again, the point is always to push the envelope on what can be deemed normal and civil, and that's what these people have been and are continuing to do. Republican politicians courted Limbaugh's favor. He makes visits to the White House, he advises presidents, and he gets more and more influential. Mind you, in this same time, both Barack Obama and Bill Clinton served 8-year terms. So he isn't all powerful in terms of actual sentiment for most Americans, which is something that's important to remember, but I'll come back to that later. But the nature of our politics is fundamentally altered in terms of polarization and what counts as a political platform. Instead of actually talking about policies on helping American people with jobs and healthcare and the economy and even safety, it just becomes, are trans people playing sports with your children?
Are gay people kissing each other? Are black people existing? The most effective commercial, and this has been proven in the previous American cycle, was this commercial about Kamala Harris talking about trans people, using the slogan, Kamala is for they, them, Trump is for you.
Every transgender inmate would have access.
Kamala's for they, them. President Trump is for you. I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
That is a proven thing that worked more than anything else that the Republicans put out there. That should tell you something about the power of the culture wars. Mind you, there was also liberal and progressive media and content doing the same thing. Jon Stewart rises during this same time, as does NPR. Liberals even tried to mimic talk radio with the failed Air America, but it was not good enough to shift the Overton window with this significant amount of Americans who, if we're honest, liberals weren't paying attention to. The country as a whole didn't seem to realize what was happening in middle America this entire time. A lot of especially modern liberals don't recognize is that Obama and Bill Clinton moved the Democrats to the right. Yes, they did. Stop arguing about this bullshit. Look it up yourselves. Do the fucking Googles. And Clinton specifically pushed the Democrats right in a way that gave Republicans two options. Either move left, which was out the question, or move further right, which is what they did with the help of Limbaugh. They vilified everything the Democrats did, even if the Democrats were doing exactly what the Republicans wanted to do, such as the '94 crime bill or the welfare reform bill, both under Bill Clinton, or Obamacare, which got its origins from Mitt Romney's healthcare plan. What Limbaugh and the culture wars did was make it that even working with Democrats to make the government all amount of people was seen as a heinous betrayal to the conservative reality and ideology. He helped create the image of Democrats as godless communists who hate America, and that impact reverberates through conservative spaces and leadership to this day. In that process, Hillary Clinton became a supervillain even before she ever held any type of office. So when she ran in 2016, unbeknownst to many liberals in the Democratic Party, she was fighting essentially 20 years of negative campaigning to millions of Americans. The blue wall had cracks in it for decades, and nobody noticed. And let's be clear here, it wasn't hard to make the Clintons look bad in middle America. The Democrats had long since abandoned the working class in favor of neoliberalism. They serve the same corporate overlords that the Republicans do. They participate in the same behavior that exploits and harms American people. They just do it with nicer words and a more diverse cast. Please understand that Democrats had their own culture war strategy of paying lip service to racial minorities, immigrants, and the LGBTQ community, but never doing enough to actually help them outside of grand gestures and empty promises. Even today, whenever we see figures in the Democratic Party that are more progressive and are more trying to get away from
like
corporately owned politics, people like Bernie Sanders, Jamal Bowman, and Zohran Mamdani, the Democrats prefer establishment figures owned by corporations instead and do everything they can to undermine those movements, which is why Democrats constantly lose. Meanwhile, NAFTA, started under Reagan but signed by Clinton, expedites the mass erosion of jobs in middle America, and this leads to poverty and dysfunction in those areas that turn into hotbeds for opioids and meth and heroin in white populations. And then here's Rush Limbaugh and his cohorts such as Sean Hannity, Michael Medved, Herman Cain, etc., explaining that their problems, the problems of these white people in these rural towns in middle America and in the South, those problems that they're experiencing are the result of the Clintons, the Obamas, immigrants, critical race theory, and eventually trans kids playing soccer, the woke mind virus, and postmodern neo-Marxism. And it's worked beautifully for well over a decade now. And so Trump won in 2016 and liberals were shocked and did it again in 2024. But don't mistake this for the country moving more right. It's just the country responding to its natural right-wing disposition. It's because the right is winning the culture wars. It is clearly apparent that the right isn't doing much to create new ways for Americans to thrive and be successful. No one believes in trickle-down economics and probably never have. Republicans haven't been the party of small government since Dwight Eisenhower. But they know policies don't matter as long as they promise to hurt the people that their followers hate. And in that regard, they're doing an amazing job. And this is the role Charlie Kirk really played. He wasn't God, family, country, all that shit. He was meant to be a provocateur, but not to galvanize the masses, but to collect those already interested in the rhetoric that the right presents and radicalize them into devoted followers who will support the right no matter what, no matter if it's actually hurting
helping them. What conservatives require are cult members. They require people who are more interested in winning the culture war than their own well-being. People immune to facts and logic. This will come up later, but understand the modern right isn't this huge, overbearing mass of people. What it is a well-organized, highly motivated mass that can in unison move and influence everything about our political reality. I talked about it in my election results video that Trump had hundreds of thousands of votes in swing states where voters didn't even bother to vote for any other candidates or issues on their ballots. These voters weren't politically inclined or informed. They just came to vote for Trump as a part of his cult of personality. That's what the right has understood for decades now. It's what they learned from Limbaugh and why even today, as they get exposed for all kinds of corruptions, openly court Trump to defy the Constitution or get caught having racist group chats, they never apologize, never admit wrong, never play defense, because their most valued followers don't want that and don't need that from them. Never forget Trump saying, "Stand back and stand by," when asked to denounce white supremacists. That wasn't an accident or a misspeak, that is intentional. A small group of highly dedicated, well-organized, and mobilized believers is all they need under the circumstances, because those folks do the work. They do the evangelizing. They do the recruiting, and they come out to vote, which is really all they need when the Democrats are as weak and feckless and genocidal as they are. And thus, America has steadily moved further right in pretty much every meaningful way for most of my lifetime. Sure, gay people can get married for now. You might even see a gay kiss on TV every once in a while. For now. And there were some DEI workshops and some donations to black schools or whatever after George Floyd was murdered. But never forget that after a year of protests and riots in the name of George Floyd, all these people shouting defund the police, that the government's response was to raise police budgets nationwide. This country is as right as it's ever been. Policing hasn't changed. The rich continue to get richer as the poor get poorer. Corporations own our data, our ways of communicating with each other, and even our access to art. The country is still hella segregated. Women no longer have the right to abortion. There's still no free health care. You can still buy AR-15 the same place you can buy Pokemon cards. Military police are invading American cities and kidnapping people off the street. And America is still an imperious superpower supporting and funding numerous genocides across the globe. Aside from a few victories here and there and some dynamic changes, the right has been winning the political game via the culture wars for a while now. This doesn't mean we stop fighting. In fact, we're in a better position than we've been in decades on the opposite end of this spectrum. But let's not be delusional on where the ledger stands. All that said, something else occurred to me when I saw Charlie Kirk get shot in the neck and the ensuing aftermath, and that maybe winning the culture war isn't the goal here, because the winners of the culture war seem more like losers. Part 2, who was Charlie Kirk? I barely knew who Charlie Kirk was before he died.
Do you truly, in your heart of hearts, truly believe that this is a human being? This?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt?
Yes.
This is a dolphin fetus. This is a human fetus. Look how similar they look. In life, do you confuse dolphins for human babies often?
Regular watchers will know I don't engage in rage bait content much. For all the accusations I get of catering to white liberals, this is my first conservatives are bad video in like 3 years, because I don't like attracting those types of viewers. I don't watch or listen to conservative pundits. I don't make content about the ridiculous things they say or do. I legit could barely tell the difference between him and Tucker Carlson, because they all fit in the same mold that I just described earlier. However, they're trying to make him into a martyr. They're trying to make him on the same line as Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, to lionize him as a sympathetic figure who only wanted what was best for people in America and had deep, meaningful beliefs about free speech and open dialogue and getting past differences. God, family, country, in that order. And to the untrained ear who doesn't know the reality, who could hate that? But I know that Charlie Kirk started out by targeting people for free speech, by targeting college professors and trying to silence them on college campuses for saying anything that was in any way progressive. I know that these same people who say God, family, country will gladly persecute you for not worshiping their God, kill your family, and put you out the country. Of many things I'm going to expose about Kirk, the main thing that should tell you the type of person he is that he's the only conservative pundit that I can think of in my lifetime to legitimately and publicly criticize Martin Luther King in any real way.
When the New York riots happen, it goes for like a week. It goes for about a week. He's telling King, you've got to say something to condemn this. And King says he doesn't want to do it because he says, I don't want to deliver a condemnation without also condemning the causes that lead to riots.
That sounds like
you can't
BLM. I wanted to make sure that, after that conversation, we talk about the positives. And then we also get into some of the other implications of this. We're a truth-seeking show. But I can say declaratively, this guy is not worthy of a national holiday. He is not worthy of godlike status. In fact, I think it's really harmful.
Most conservatives aren't bold enough to engage with MLK critically. Instead, they like to use the sanitized version of King to push their right-wing agenda. But maybe, I guess to his credit, Kirk has purposely brought up King's radicalism as a way to undermine him, likely in preparation for Project 2025 and the purging of civil rights that we see they're clearly trying to attempt. Notice how Kirk talks about the civil rights bill and his issues with it. He doesn't get very specific, does he?
Imagine what happened during 2020 with even more murdering, and imagine just remember how angry we got when CNN called it mostly peaceful.
Exactly.
And this is one of the reasons why MLK's numbers went down towards the end of his life.
This is one of the reasons why MLK's numbers went down towards the end of his life.
Most queer-coded agent of chaos that was a popular villain, but not this icon for disaffected, predominantly white men. When I was a kid, I saw Jack Nicholson as the Joker in the first Batman movie, and I thought, yeah, that's cool. But nobody wanted to be him. Same thing for the Joker in the reruns of the 1960s and the classic cartoon series in the 90s. But then in 2008, with The Dark Knight Returns, the gritty revamp of the Batman films, we got a new reimagining of the Joker as representing the aforementioned disaffected group of angry, predominantly white men. And I've talked in multiple videos now on how that image of the Joker is so iconic to these men and boys because it embodies a fantastical, ultra-violent response to an indifferent and cruel society that both causes their dysfunction and rejects them forward. And because of this, they lash out. And while the Joker's popularity has waned as the years have gone on, the sentiment behind his popularity has gone nowhere. The chaotic, evil desire to have revenge on society is just as salient in a lot of young, predominantly white men, Dax notwithstanding. The last Batman movie just took the same character motivation and put it on the Riddler at this time instead of the Joker, just because it still is just as salient now as it has been probably for several generations. This nation is full of angry, nihilistic, and potentially violent young men trying to get anyone to pay attention. Now, I don't think people realize how integral that sentiment is to movements like the American Nazis or Turning Point USA. These photos that we see of these young men back years ago in Virginia, these are not white men who are well on track in life, who are finding their way easily through this world. No, these are rejects. We're seeing the type of men that if the Joker was real, they probably would have been some of his goons, or as Rockwell duly named, stormtroopers. Stormtrooper might sound like Tyler Robinson. The limited info on Robinson indicates that he was actually a young man of significant intelligence, having a 4.0 GPA, scoring 34 out of 36 in his college entrance exams, ranking him in the top 10% of testers. Yet he went to an unremarkable state school and dropped out after one semester to enter trade school. He was described as shy and quiet by many and was clearly deep into internet culture if the memes he put on the bullet casings and his choice of Halloween costumes are of any indication. And that's all we know, really. Over a month after this huge story, it's been radio silent on any new information and why he did this. Conservatives like to say the memes on his bullet cases indicate a left-wing political standing. However, the memes are also well-known memes in right-wing spaces meant to mock the left. The only other ostensibly left-leaning aspect of Robinson's life is the revelation that he was allegedly in a queer relationship with his roommate who was said to be trans, though there's minimal evidence of that as well. Mind you, Tyler Robinson being bisexual or pansexual or whatever wouldn't make him any less right-wing. Right-wing men are very much fans of queer sex and trans women. The log-cabin Republicans are a thing. Gay Nazis were a thing, even amongst Rockwell's group. If you talk to trans women, they will tell you some of their biggest fans tend to be Republican men. There's also been some effort by those on the left to say that Robinson was actually far-right and killed Kirk because he wasn't right-leaning enough. Many connect the memes to other far-right groups, specifically those led by Nick Fuentes, who is a constant and persistent critic of Charlie Kirk publicly. There's a lot of internet lore there that sounds plausible from a biased position, but there's little validity to support this assertion as well. Then, of course, we have the conspiracy theories that it was about the Epstein files, the Israel lobby, body doubles, and all kinds of stuff that comes from these moments. But at the end of the day, until we hear from Tyler directly, we don't have a strong understanding of why he allegedly did this. All of that said, I have what I think is a compelling explanation, which is that Tyler Robinson was like a lot of young white men, except he's evolved somewhat. Tyler didn't technically commit an act of mass violence. Instead, he made a mass spectacle of violence. We'll explain this a bit by talking about spree shooters. There's been a lot of effort as of late by the state, law enforcement, and of course people like Charlie Kirk to reframe spree shootings and mass killings in ways that fail to isolate the disproportionately white male and right-wing nature of these mass violence incidents. All domestic terror acts of mass violence and spree shootings are disproportionately done by right-leaning, straight white males. Kirk's incredibly ironic last words were him responding, counting or not counting gang violence, to a question about spree shootings. He was trying to insert a racist dog whistle to deflect from the point of the question, and he did this because engaging with the reality of what spree shootings are in America will require us to critically look at white people, white men specifically. The right has put a lot of effort in making spree shootings an issue of trans people somehow, even though most research indicates that trans people make up less than 1% of all spree shootings. And bringing up mass shootings in the context of street violence as if it's a black inner city gang thing hides the white male right-wing nature of the phenomenon even more. Gang violence and spree shootings have completely different circumstances and motivations and thus responses. But conflating those two is the point for men like Kirk. Again, the goal isn't the greater truth or understanding, it's breaking containment. This is not to say that all spree shootings that aren't a part of street violence are done by only white men. There's figures like Brian Nichols or Christopher Dorner as examples of black spree shooters, but aside from being relatively rare, it's also not hard to recognize the difference between someone like Christopher Dorner, who went on a killing spree over being fired from his job as a police officer, versus Scott Paul Bierle, who killed 6 women at a yoga studio because he was depressed and couldn't get a date. And again, there are some black spree shooters with similar motifs, but they pale in comparison to the amount of white ones. While both events are abhorrent, only one reminds me of the popularity of the Joker. Only one involves this vague desire for retribution on society, which tends to be the unique motivation for mostly right shooters and almost no one else. In the aftermath of Kirk's murder, the term nihilistic terrorism or nihilistic violent extremists popped up on people's radar.
Talk about nihilistic violent extremism, but haven't really set out to define what it is, and a lot of people don't know what it is. So what is it?
At its simplest terms, nihilistic violent extremism is a practical definition that allows authorities, specifically law enforcement and the FBI, to attribute acts of violence that are terroristic in nature but lack a singular ideological focus. It's individuals who are mobilized by maybe 3 or 4 ideologies, but none of them hold a primacy over that person's beliefs or why they took the violent actions they did, but nonetheless they're seeking to exploit the weaknesses in society through violent means and hoping to see it collapse or at least degrade a little further.
Essentially saying, we don't really understand why he did this. But I think that's a lie. This ignores a very obvious factor in many of these events, the desire for attention.
So you think Batman's made Gotham a better place? Look at me.
Going all the way back to the Columbine killers. When you read their writings and the writings of other spree shooters, you see a ton of patterns, and one of them is the desire for people to see what they're going to do, to witness them. Many leave behind manifestos. They send press kits to the media. They document their preparation, release videos of themselves. Some even live stream themselves in the midst of the act. They stylize themselves in ways to build an aesthetic, often paying tribute to other shooters or images of white spectacle violence. The Columbine shooters, for example, often got accused of being fans of The Matrix or that there was a connection there, but actually they were clearly referencing this scene from 1995's Basketball Diaries. These acts are intended to give them meaning in a world where they feel meaningless. And I would argue that even the killers who do seem more politically or specifically motivated still desire some sense of notoriety and attention. Dylan Roof was an overt white supremacist, and his killing, like many right-wing terrorists, was explicitly for the goal of starting a race war through which so many people, black and white, would have died, again inspired by the Turner Diaries, another part of Rockwell's legacy. Roof aggrandized himself as the only person resolute enough to do what had to be done for white people, and wrote in his diary in jail how he hated that people had the nerve to question exactly why he was doing what he was doing, to question his mental wellness or say he had a drug problem. He didn't want any of those normal excuses y'all be giving to these white boys. He was adamant, and he's been very clear since then, that he has no sorrow for the lives that he took. You don't do this much because you're indifferent to being known and understood. No, you want to be known and understood. You want your words and actions to be influential and mean something. And I know this because law enforcement knows this. Since probably the mid-2010s, when it became clear that mass shootings were just going to be a thing we had to deal with here in America, the media and authorities began to give less attention and energy to spreading the names and faces of the perpetrators of these crimes. It used to be that committing a spree shooting of some sort would get your face all over the news for weeks or months. You get tons of examination of your life and your background, and your parents and your friends and all this stuff, academic papers, interviews in prison, whole documentaries, etc. Now you're lucky if your incident stays in the news saga for more than 48 hours, and the media will rarely say your name on TV. But what if you kill or attempt to kill someone famous? Then they can't ignore you. Literally the same day Charlie Kirk was killed, there was a spree shooter by a kid obsessed with Hitler and Nazis in a whole other state. But he didn't kill Charlie Kirk, so none of us remember this. Consider how much more famous Matthew Crooks would have been if he had actually killed Donald Trump. Further, look at his very similar background to Robinson. Quiet kid, highly intelligent, highly online. All the usual features, but at some point Crooks knew that he wanted to do some type of spectacle act of violence, and he researched spree shooting and other things extensively before deciding to kill Donald Trump. But he failed, and instead his attempt became fuel for Trump's presidential campaign, and his story has been mostly pushed to the side. But understand, targeting famous public figures for infamy isn't a new thing, and it's probably going to make a strong comeback because this is what disaffected, mostly white men have been doing for years. When you look at Ronald Reagan or Bjork or the murder of John Lennon, they all have the same similarities. My goal in bringing up spree shootings is to beg an obvious question. Why is this something that Americans have just allowed to happen here in America? No other country in the world, even countries with plenty of guns like Canada, has as many acts of senseless violence. But more interestingly, why do we not engage with the uniquely white nature of this phenomenon? Not just the fact that the shooters are predominantly white, but also the fact that the victims are predominantly white. Of all the inherent paradoxes in the modern American right wing, none to me are more striking than the fact that 20 white kids dying at an elementary school, or a high school, or an all-white church, or an all-white country music concert would bear minimal energy or attention in the alleged pro-life conservative agenda. Instead of outrage and self-reflection, the right has only doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down, with Kirk being one of the main people defending guns and gun culture and distracting from any real efforts to look inward. Him being murdered in a similar act in the
I don't think you can take their guns away. I don't like gun violence at all, but I don't think you can take their guns away. They're fucking crazy about their guns. Am I wrong? They're fucking crazy about it. You can't take away their guns. Like, I wouldn't want to. I think it's asking for something. I think it's asking for civil war or something like that. You can't take their guns away. You must make them come to the table willingly, and I really don't know how to make them do that. They love their guns so much. They don't care. They think that these school shootings are, like, basically some kind of cost. Like, that's the cost of their guns, I guess. I don't know. They don't care. So, but I don't want to take their guns away from them. I think that idea is crazy. Why didn't you hurt the monkey? And it's faster to melee than maybe cheaper too.
In the middle of dodging questions on the nature of these acts is so ironic that it feels like something from a movie. Charlie Kirk's murder is yet another cry for attention from white men who are suffering under late-stage capitalism and alienation. But at this point, it's clear that the excesses of white death in this country is not a glitch, it's a feature. It's the entire point, and that's why Kirk has to be celebrated and elevated to such a high level, because he was a true believer turned public martyr, and other white men like him will be lucky to share his fate. But the reality is, most of the other deaths in the name of this cult don't have nearly the same level of exaltation.
Obviously, that's not what either of us are saying.
Well, what do you think is the cause of it? Like, what do you think is the reason why more men aren't succeeding and getting college degrees, and more men aren't going out and making as much money in their 20s?
I think that the current environment does not necessarily lend itself to the disposition that men have got. So they're less conscientious than women from a personality standpoint on average. That means that it's really difficult, comparatively on average, for you to be able to remind yourself that you need to do this sort of homework. Men are more predisposed to addiction, they're more predisposed to using recreational drugs, they're more predisposed to being in jail, to all of this sort of gang stuff that people get drawn into. It's just more likely for guys. There are more routes that men can be pulled away.
People on the right say pretty consistently that the left offers no answers to young men. The phrase is often, the left has failed men. And I get why they say this. It's stupid, but I get what they're trying to get at. They're getting at the fact that the left
has been great to me.
No easy answers for the specific things they believe are causing them problems. Instead, the left, because we're talking about a very nebulous thing, right, offers young men a relatively unproven and risky way of reimagining themselves as men, which is in many ways antithetical to the way that we're taught to think a man should be. They are literally telling them the thing that they're actually pursuing is the problem in the first place. So of course, how could that be an easy or viable answer from that particular standpoint? Mind you, there's no shortage of left-leaning men that exhibit the traits we often associate with traditional masculinity in men, whether it be physical prowess, desirability, wealth, being a solid father figure or provider, and in plenty of cases, being a misogynist or a patriarch. None of these. I'm a bit fearful of the presidential campaign. This assertion as well. Then, of course, we have the conspiracy theories that it was about the Epstein files or the Israel lobby, body doubles, and all kinds of stuff that comes from these moments. But at the end of the day, until we hear from Tyler directly, we don't have a strong understanding of why he allegedly did this. All that said, I have what I think is a compelling explanation, which is that Tyler Robinson was like a lot of young white men, except he's evolved somewhat. Tyler didn't technically commit an act of mass violence. Instead, he made a mass spectacle of violence. We'll explain this a bit by talking about spree shooters. There's been a lot of effort as of late by the state, law enforcement, and of course people like Charlie Kirk to reframe spree shootings and mass killings in ways that fail to isolate the disproportionately white male and right-wing nature of these mass violence incidents. All domestic terror acts of mass violence and spree shootings are disproportionately done by right-leaning, straight white males. Kirk's incredibly ironic last words were him responding, counting or not counting gang violence, to a question about spree shootings. He was trying to insert a racist dog whistle to deflect from the point of the question, and he did this because engaging with the reality of what spree shootings are in America will require us to critically look at white people, white men specifically. The right has put a lot of effort in making spree shootings an issue of trans people somehow, even though most research indicates that trans people make up less than 1% of all spree shootings. And bringing up mass shootings in the context of street violence as if it's a black inner city gang thing hides the white male right-wing nature of the phenomenon even more. Gang violence and spree shootings have completely different circumstances and motivations and thus responses. But conflating those two is the point for men like Kirk. Again, the goal isn't the greater truth or understanding, it's breaking containment. This is not to say that all spree shootings that aren't a part of street violence are done by only white men. There's figures like Brian Nichols or Christopher Dorner as examples of black spree shooters, but aside from being relatively rare, it's also not hard to recognize the difference between someone like Christopher Dorner, who went on a killing spree over being fired from his job as a police officer, versus Scott Paul Bierle, who killed 6 women at a yoga studio because he was depressed and couldn't get a date. And again, there are some black spree shooters with similar motifs, but they pale in comparison to the amount of white ones. While both events are abhorrent, only one reminds me of the popularity of the Joker. Only one involves this vague desire for retribution on society, which tends to be the unique motivation for mostly right shooters and almost no one else. In the aftermath of Kirk's murder, the term nihilistic terrorism or nihilistic violent extremists popped up on people's radar.
Talk about nihilistic violent extremism, but haven't really set out to define what it is, and a lot of people don't know what it is. So what is it?
At its simplest terms, nihilistic violent extremism is a practical definition that allows authorities, specifically law enforcement and the FBI, to attribute acts of violence that are terroristic in nature but lack a singular ideological focus. It's individuals who are mobilized by maybe 3 or 4 ideologies, but none of them hold a primacy over that person's beliefs or why they took the violent actions they did. But nonetheless, they're seeking to exploit the weaknesses in society through violent means and hoping to see it collapse or at least degrade a little further.
Essentially saying, we don't really understand why he did this. But I think that's a lie. This ignores a very obvious factor in many of these events, the desire for attention.
So you think Batman's made Gotham a better place? Look at me.
Look at me. Going all the way back to the Columbine killers. When you read their writings and the writings of other spree shooters, you see a ton of patterns, and one of them is the desire for people to see what they're going to do, to witness them. Many leave behind manifestos. They send press kits to the media. They document their preparation, release videos of themselves. Some even live stream themselves in the midst of the act. They stylize themselves in ways to build an aesthetic, often paying tribute to other shooters or images of white spectacle violence. The Columbine shooters, for example, often got accused of being fans of The Matrix or that there was a connection there, but actually they were clearly referencing this scene from 1995's Basketball Diaries.
Oh, we went back, did we? Oops. Fuck.
Think that the current environment
This type of stuff is, which is young white men scared about their position in society, hoping that something as simple and easy and low effort as gambling can pull them out of a situation where they might be at the bottom of the economic reality and push them to the top. And yes, you do have people like Kevin Hart, Drake, even Drewski and Joe Budden appear in some of these gambling commercials, which, by the way, shout out to Kai Cenat for being one of the few to turn like these multi-million-dollar gambling company deals. He turned one down. So yes, black figures are a part of the promotion of these sites, but this is just due diligence on the part of these gambling companies to hit every corner of men they can think of. The real targets are young white men looking to feel like winners to grasp an opportunity. And this works because they know how desperate people are, how big the gulf between the haves and the have-nots is growing, and how no amount of talent or hard work creates a solid path to a viable, successful life in this country anymore. Once again, your grandparents killed the New Deal in the 1960s so that black people couldn't live too close to it. And mind you, problem gambling has a higher suicide rate than any other form of addiction. And people like Joe Rogan promote it regularly in between complaining about the masculinity crisis to his predominantly white male audience, all for the love of money, which he doesn't need. He got it for something. And again, this is not to say that black and other men don't suffer from these issues, that the suicide rate for men in general is abnormally high over the last 40 years. But considering all the other ways in which black people tend to lead in negative health outcome categories, you gotta think that white men are working extra hard to outdo structural racism to take the lead here, all while simultaneously escaping the scrutiny and disrespect that usually comes with it. But here's the thing, this particular social problem is just as influenced by structural issues with white men as social problems affecting black men and black people in general and everyone else. It's just a different function of the same exact structure. Often you'll see right-wing men in our media focus directly or tangentially discuss the male loneliness epidemic. We have Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, Rogan, etc. And historically, this is relevant as the men's rights movement from the 70s was born out of men attempting to come together to address the social issues that men face. However, the original men's rights movement was a progressive, almost feminist movement that was eventually co-opted by right-wing chauvinistic thinking, and that's exactly where the modern manosphere exists currently. And right now, we're just seeing history repeating itself. Many white men, white male-oriented spaces have attempted to lay the blame for these issues at the aspects of modern society. They blame women, immigrants, gay people, etc. for promoting degeneracy. And somehow that is causing like factories to shut down in their Midwestern towns, even though they can't quite connect the dots there for you. They don't have to, because that's what you kind of want to believe. And they want you to believe this because if you don't, then you might accidentally engage with structures of patriarchy and capitalism that have been used to kill as many opportunities for normal white men as they have for anyone else. And mind you, this is why people like Kurt argue against women being independent and getting educated. The whole trad wife thing that has become popular in the last couple of years is a marketing ploy to convince women that they were better off in the 1950s when they couldn't get a divorce.
The 3 M's make you a better citizen and more conservative, which of course is mortgage, marriage, and mating.
In fact, ending no-fault divorce is literally something many right-wingers want to do right now. They want women to not have autonomy, often using the fact that women are so unhappy now as evidence of the failure of feminism, which is ironic because it actually just proves the left's point about everything. One thing that never gets brought up when we talk about the male loneliness epidemic, because it takes the focus away from explicitly men, is the fact that while the suicide rate for men is abnormally high and has been for decades now, women are actually more likely to attempt suicide than men. They're not doing any better under the current situation. And in another sick twist, the only reason why their suicide rate isn't higher is because of the methods women tend to choose for killing themselves versus men. To be blunt, men are more likely to use guns in attempting suicide, which is much more lethal than the methods women tend to use, such as attempting overdose on pills. Thus, women are more likely to survive, creating opportunities for future intervention. And white men are more likely to own firearms, often as a manifestation of achieving masculine status and or the irrational fear that black people or immigrants or terrorists or wherever else are dangerous to them, so they want to carry these guns around in case they have to become John Rambo one day. And ironically, that just ends up making it easier for them to kill themselves when things don't go well for them. A paper published in the National Institute of Health said the following.
Themes of white male anxiety are common in recent social science research. For example, Carlson shows that white male anxiety surrounding perceived threats to their dominant status explains high rates of gun ownership among whites. Kimmel also demonstrates that the pressure to be economically successful, particularly in times of economic uncertainty, is a major source of distress among white men. Indeed, the narrative of the erosion of the authority of white men and perceived status threats is evident in the formation of the Tea Party movement and the rise of men's rights groups. Research on health and well-being also supports these notions. Case and Deaton show that suicide rates among white males have increased, which they speculate have been fueled by hopelessness. In response to this study, Phillips hypothesized that white men may have experienced greater increases in suicide because they were socialized to believe that they would experience upward social mobility and economic prosperity in a way that racial minority men were not. In other words, these men had further to fall.
This excerpt mentions Michael Kimmel and his concept of aggrieved entitlement. While Kimmel has for various reasons fallen out of favor in gender studies, I don't think anyone has a better framework for examining the uniqueness of this specific social ill for white men specifically. Kimmel states the following in a paper titled Suicide by Mass Murder.
Feeling aggrieved, wronged by the world, these are typical adolescent feelings, common to many boys and girls. What transforms the aggrieved into mass murderers is also a sense of entitlement, a sense of using violence against others, making others hurt as you yourself might hurt. Aggrieved entitlement inspires revenge against those who have wronged you. It is compensation for humiliation. Humiliation is emasculation. Humiliate someone and you take away his manhood. For many men, humiliation must be avenged or you cease to be a man. Aggrieved entitlement is a gendered emotion, a fusion of that humiliating loss of manhood and the moral obligation and entitlement to get it back.
These men have been told all their lives
Happy Thanksgiving,
that they should
guys.
align themselves with these structures and traditions, that masculinity should be a certain way, and it's their job to ensure that if they abide by certain rules and traditions, that they will be rewarded. And in that process, they become foot soldiers or maybe even stormtroopers for these structures. And being a soldier is costly, and the cost is their happiness, well-being, and possibly their lives. And it's all to protect the system that does not have their best interest in mind. And more, so many of these men are recognizing that the structure is not holding up its end of the bargain, and they're looking around at their peers slowly dying, but instead of recognizing the system as the problem, they listen to the system explain to them that the real problem is trans middle schoolers playing soccer. And for a long time, it was really hard for me to make sense of that. how so many of these men can fall for such obvious misdirection, and why so few recognize the real problem. But then as I've studied the manosphere and the right wing over and over, I realized that it's not because it makes sense, but because it makes community. It's because the cohesive identity of white men is literally worth dying for from their perspective. The real challenge that the left has in attracting men is the fact that it means deconstructing this ideological framework and reconstructing the concept of community and kinship for a lot of white men that, let's be honest, a lot of us don't want to be around. It's why so many white men on the left hold on to those same frameworks when they get here, allowing many problems to repeat themselves, and any white man on the left that tells you otherwise is not to be trusted. I still get emails from fans of insert white leftist guy here saying,
"Why are you so mean about white guys?"
I can't with you. It's that sense of belonging and community that creates a barrier, and understanding that, it makes sense how so much of our daily lives have been atomized to reduce community, because it makes it so the only community left for many of these white men are these reactionary right-wing spaces. I remember when I was a teen that rock and metal were much more prominent parts of white male culture. There were much more popular genres of music that were intrinsically anti-establishment, anti-corporate, and unsurprisingly, within all that convergence of media companies, you saw them purposefully begin to exclude those types of very much right-oriented music in favor of music that was more easily commodifiable. Deja Sade does a great analysis on how Eminem, believe it or not, was probably the last true anti-establishment white megastar figure holding off the full control of MAGA for white minds today. Because today, most images of viable white masculinity that are popular are very much right-wing, very much corporately sponsored, happy dog, happy dad, whatever the beer company is, all these podcasts. It's not just Charlie Kirk, it's Theo Vaughn, it's Aiden Ross, it's Brilliant Idiots, or whatever dude's name is that be hanging with Charlemagne. And this is why Trump went to all of those podcasts, kind of just casually saying whatever the fuck he wanted with no pushback. And now all of them are like,
"I can't believe he didn't release the Epstein files. We were tricked."
You fucking idiots. You weren't tricked, you're willfully being stupid. It may seem like I'm being flippant here, but I genuinely just feel something. Getting back to media analysis for a second, I can't not think of the War Boys from the Mad Max movies. I remember watching Fury Road back in 2015, recognizing that it was a brave decision to not just have these foot soldiers in the movie be nameless peons to be killed in the background. Instead, the War Boys were this great metaphor for what's happening to boys in our world right now. We watch as one of them goes through a metamorphosis to find meaning in a seemingly meaningless life, greatly through developing a new community apart from its cult of origin. I found a quote from the Mad Max fan wiki that is sourced to George Miller, though I couldn't verify this, still is too perfect to leave out.
These war boys have no choice. They're culturally impoverished. There's no books, there's no internet. There's no theaters, no radio, no music. All they have are the detritus of the past, and they refashion it so a steering wheel becomes a religious artifact. They do the sign of the V8, the engine they've scarified onto their bodies, because an engine is much more permanent than a human body. They chrome their teeth, because chrome is such a rare thing. So like all cults, this is another cult, invented by Immortan Joe in order to get people to die on his behalf.
What's so effective about them as a metaphor is how these boys reinforce each other. They're a community before anything. They actively have some touching and endearing moments of brotherhood within their cult, which is something that needs to be recognized. It's why it works. But at the end of the day, regardless of those minor positive moments, this is a closed circle. They're not allowed out and not allowed to see the world beyond their existence, lest what happens to Nux, the character in the first Mad Max, happens to more of them. And this is exactly what happens in a lot of these male-oriented right-wing spaces. These boys and young men spend countless hours in group chats, Reddit pages, in the comment sections of their favorite creators, creating culture around the cult, reinforcing their behavior and paradoxically toxifying each other where it would be incredibly hard for them to ever find community elsewhere. And the result is death. Socially, if they're lucky, but eternally for more than we like to think about. And in the meantime, the real life of Morton Joe and his various cronies enrich themselves through their sacrifices. Don't look up how much money Trump has made in the variety of crypto scams and contracts in just the first year of his presidency, all off the backs of these same white men who voted for him, whose lives have not changed at all. The rise in the suicide rate in America over the last 20 plus years is almost exclusively driven by white men, often due to depression, addiction, despair, and a loss of hope. All while the right has controlled this country for most of the last 50 plus years and has pointed to us and everyone else as a minority, saying somehow it's our fault. And if you include the political reigns of Clinton and Obama and Biden as being right-wing, which you should, do some Googles. It's all pretty much right-wing all the time for a generation, for at least my entire life. But even not counting them, right now, Republicans have the Congress, the presidency, the Supreme Court, all three branches of the government, and what have they done for y'all? Aside from fucking up us. What has changed? In fact, they're actively trying to make y'all less healthy and less wealthy as we speak, as the president spends $300 million to redecorate the White House and invites tech billionaires over to hang out.
Behold, Stormwind, capital of the human kingdom and crown jewel of the Alliance. Ruled by a dear, dear friend who is sadly absent.
Impressive walls. This city could withstand attack by a formidable adversary. Perhaps even a dragon.
You have no idea. Now then, to make a proper entrance, pardon me while I assume a more recognizable form.
Ah, yes. The Earth Warder, too, had a visage. So these humans know you?
Indeed. I have no doubt they will welcome me with open arms.
Now, I'm seeing tons of people crafting food, but I don't see anybody. Oh. Cooking trainers, bountiful table hostess. Oh, it's Thanksgiving. Okay. Well, it's a good time to level. I'm now level 16. And I'll either have to, like, I can level a little bit more, but I'll probably have to either pay or stop, one or the other, and I don't know what I'll do. I like seeing those numbers pop. I feel like Batman. It's not like being, it's a lot like being Batman. Yeah. Na 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 na. Turn off the crappy music. Or whatever. Turn off the crappy music. Na 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 Now I'm in, like, the tram to Normera again. There's somebody taking a ride. Star Color Lunasa. Wonder if I can jump the thingy. Where the hell is the tram? This is taking forever. There you are. Cool. Wait, I changed my mind. Hi, kitty. Did you go after that mouse? Good kitty. You let that mouse know that you're here and you'll kill him. Don't fuck with no mice. You'll kill them. Yeah. I can stay up late. It's Thanksgiving. I don't have to do shit. I had to do shit today. I don't have to do shit today except drink, maybe. Damn, this game looks a lot cooler with like the rain and shit going on. It's cool. Why didn't they make hardcore through to TBC? It was only supposed to be a classic thing. Is it the embassy? Where's the embassy? Oh, there we go. I fear I'm on the wrong character. I think I like Mistweaver Monk more than I do Preservation Evoker. They're both good classes, and they both do crazy things. But the more I play, the more I realize I want to play probably a panda monk, or well, a fox monk. But that's horde. So a panda monk. Maybe I'll make a panda monk, I guess. I probably have Alliance panda monks. I just don't have an evoker. Oh, this is the ally race thing. I like this character, and I can park her in Stormwind and just get XP, I suppose. But I think a Mistweaver Monk is more my style. Yeah, I think Mistweaver Monk is more my style, which is kind of annoying. I don't know. It's hard. I like preservation. They made some changes to it. Time dilation's really good. I think it's the game. I don't think I want to play this game. It doesn't have the same feel that it used to for me. It's unfortunate, and I think I will just accept that. It's not like I have to play the game. I'll play the expansion, and I'll play my Devastation Evoker, which is a fun class, and I'll just play the expansion and leave. But it was good to go see it. Maybe I should play Final Fantasy. I don't know. It's so old and it's not really supported. Nice. It's good stuff. Good kitty. That's a good kitty. Purr, purr, purr. You're a good, good kitty. Yeah, you silly kitty. Don't fight me. What are you doing, kitty? Trying to rub your belly. Trying to rub your belly, silly kitty. Cute little kitty. Oh. Oh, jeez, kitty, you startled me. Silly kitty. What a weird game. What does it all mean? Like, why and what? It is cool. It's whimsy. Weird Asian whimsy. I love it. But it's also really odd. Like, just why? Why am I like a weird little white sprite like that? It's weird. It's... reminds me of Mystical Ninja Goemon. Though I think that, yeah, that's a Japanese game, but yeah. That game had a lot of cool whimsy. On the 64, that was an amazing-ass game, Mystical Ninja Goemon. Or is it Goemon? Goemon? I don't even know how they say it. Goman, maybe? I love this game. It's way too good for free. Oh, I didn't get those things, did I?
Man, I've been playing a lot of Skyrim lately. I think it's time for something different. You know what they say, you never truly quit RuneScape. You just take really long breaks.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Todd Howard, you son of a bitch. and some broken Stormcloak ankles and get the grind going. As any longtime RuneScape player will tell you, starting the lifetime of grind with some skilling is never a bad idea. Now to grab the Thief Stone because we're going fishing, boys! And as you beautiful people have told me in the comment section, by using the flame spell, you can fry up the salmon as they're jumping, and then pick up both the salmon roe and the unmarked dead fishy for another salmon roe. So that's double the salmon roe you would normally get from just catching them. Got that optimal training method going. I go ahead and take out all the free stuff from Alvor as it's part of the main quest, loot up all his ingredients and his gold, and ask if he needs some help around the forge.
Yes, actually.
I go ahead and take out all the free stuff from Alvor as it's part of the main quest, loot up all his ingredients and his gold, and ask if he needs some help around the forge.
Yes, actually. Why don't you keep that dagger and helmet? Maybe you'll remember me when you're making Skyforged steel, huh?
And so, I got my first equipment, a hide helmet and iron dagger. Now let's get exactly 25 woodcutting XP and start farming these fishies.
My E-drive stopped.
Ever been to Mortar?
Hey, Kitty, I'm gonna get up. Poor Kitty, excuse me, Kitty. Gotta go to the bathroom. Sorry.
And with all that fresh salmon fried up, that makes 87 salmon roe harvested. Now I just need to collect 2 ingredients for the same amount. I traveled to Lake Ilinalta to collect Nordic barnacle from both the sunken ruins and the shipwreck by the Lady Stone, and I also traveled to Riften, where you can find a few under the docks. Other than that, it's a quick trip to Dawnstar,
Climbing back and we'll be off.
where you can find several just hanging out along the Sea of Ghosts. Pull up at some of the shipwrecks and trigger some thalassophobia at the Pilgrim's Trench, and lastly, head west of Windhelm towards the Nightgate Inn, where I can summon a wolf to beat up on some real wolves. He was not a good boy. And now I get his skin. But it's here at Lake Yorgrim where I can grab the rest of the barnacles. That's 2 ingredients down. 1 more to go. I break into Sven's house and steal all this garlic because f*** him, shield Feindal's eyes from my life of culinary crime, and head to Solitude by carriage because the locals are absolutely loaded with God's gift of flavor to mortals. Unfortunately, my breath afterward is wife repellent though. But now that we have enough collected, it's time for me to head to Riften so I can get those sheets shifting.
Are you familiar with how marriage works in Skyrim?
Oh, familiar enough, my friend. Familiar enough. And while I'm in Riften, I can start crafting away my first set of gear.
Never been an honest day's week.
Now let's finally head inside Whiterun. Remember that firewood from earlier?
Honest gold for honest work.
And now I can take all the smaller stuff without stealing at the Bannered Mare. Still gotta be careful about that mammoth tusk though. Now that I've somehow managed to shove 100 pounds of ivory up my ass without anyone noticing, I can hand deliver it to my doting drug-dealing dame.
You do that?
Why, yes I would.
I do. Now and forever.
I hope she accepts me, a homeless Breton, into her 4 walls.
You can always stay with me.
Perfect. I guess that's why they call it the Trappings of Love, because she is quite trapped as my main experience booster, and we are gaining quite the experience tonight. When I wake up, I make sure to take the other wood in the house, a broom, for reasons I'll explain later. How convenient that the resident drug dealer lives so close to the alchemist in town. Definitely not suspicious at all. Let's get down to alchemy training though. As I outlined earlier, salmon roe, Nordic barnacle, and garlic are all I need to get a ton of experience. And after 5 minutes of strategic alchemy perks in training, that's 95 alchemy. All my level up points are going into health as usual, and I've taken every alchemy perk except for experimenter and purity. I have 5 extra points left over that I'll plug into light armor, smithing, alteration, and restoration. With that out of the way, I can read the rest of the 5 alchemy levels to 100. Pretty easy grind. Only took me 3 hours. And as one grind ends, another begins.
Cross the bridge at your own peril.
So the only reason we're here at this point in our journey is that Feralda offers us 1 free spell from each of the schools of magic depending on which test she offers you. And I'm here for Mage Light.
Here you are. Now I'm anxious to see you cast it.
Oh, I am too.
Well done indeed.
Oh, but there's way more where that came from. With the Mage Light spell, I can run up to the city gate at Solitude, aim at the peak of this mountain, and start blasting with Mage Light spells. At first, it's pretty slow because of the large magicka costs, but even just 2 goes the extra mile. This should speed things up. And if you'd like to go the extra mile for yours truly, then please consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel for more Elder Scrolls content. And if you're so inclined and can comfortably afford to do so, you can join this lovely list of my wonderful channel members who enjoy such perks as sneak peeks, an exclusive Discord channel, exclusive YouTube posts, and more. A big thank you to all of you on this list who support the channel with your hard-earned cash. There are over 50 of you now, which is crazy. And speaking of crazy, there's an extra 30% magic resistance and 100 alteration. Only took about 10 minutes from start to finish. That'll be a solid 55 total magic resistance. And all the way across the province back to Riften, so we can stop skilling and start killing.
To receive the touch of Mara, you must first act as her hands in the world.
So as part of the Book of Love quest, I'm going to need to travel to Ivarstead, which ordinarily would not be a problem. Just hook around the northeastern side of the mountain like I've done before. Pretty simple. Except not so simple because this freaking noob decided to aggro me on the way to this country bumpkin little town. And he is not f***ing around today. No protect from melee up in this bitch. Okay, I think I've gotten enough distance from him. I should be safe.
Daughter's driving me crazy. So forgive me if I'm a bit on edge.
You're as good as dead.
I'm sure.
What the hell? She pulled a dagger out. Oh no, this can't be good. I guess I'll try to defuse the situation. That troll is no joke. Okay, so far so good. Okay, not so good. Yeah, even with fire, it's not going to be enough.
Oh, he's healing.
Yeah, bro, I'm with
more.
you. Let's get the hell out of here. Well, I think Yofdor is still a bit occupied. It's like half and half if the villagers are interested in the troll or not. Weird little culture they have around here. Okay, so the troll is still hanging out over here on this rock. And of course my fire does nothing to him despite trolls being weak to fire, by the way. Well, let's see what the Rift's finest can do about it. A troll crossing a bridge. Can't make this shit up. Okay, let's get it. No, Klimek, why'd you have to go in front? Dude, now is really not a good time. Alright, we're kind of dealing with him. Sorta. Decent progress here. Just gotta watch these bloodthirsty guards. Alright, we got half the village on the troll again with our boy taking the aggro. And these bumpkins can't even finish off the literal wild predator in the streets. I hate it here. I can see why.
I don't like him. He talks like every right-winger I've ever met, and they use language like riffraff and bumpkins and stuff like this. And I'm sorry, but I think the kid himself is a bumpkin. I'm sorry. I liked him and sub to him, but I don't expect to see him again. He at least was trying. You know, he was trying.
What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be diving on into an open world RPG. I've been waiting for this one for a while. You may recall that we checked out a demo for this title called Ash and Steel a while back. It was like a limited prologue that they released for one of the Steam Next Fests. Well, the game is out officially this morning, and I've spent about 4 hours with it. Don't I look like a character in an RPG that's been playing for like 4 hours? Maybe like an MMO. I don't know. I'm all wrapped up in rags and bandages right now. I am a complete and total utter mess, but if you are a fan of games like Risen or janky games like Gothic 3 that promise a lot of exploration and deliver on that promise, but a lot of the other things are kind of done in an underwhelming way, I call them wonky jank games. If you're into wonky jank RPGs, this is the newest, best Piranha Bytes style wonky jank RPG that you're going to play with the remainder of 2025. So I was trying to get like much further. I wanted to show up in like glowing plate mail with like a flaming sword or whatever, but unfortunately this is a slow burn RPG. It takes a long time to get anything done inside of this title, but we're going to play it for about 30 or 40 minutes. I'm going to talk about what I've seen during my 4 hours with the game, what I've liked about it, what I have not liked about it. If after watching this you did indeed want to get the game for yourself, I got a link for you down below in the description. You can check that out there. You can also find a bunch of other Nerd Castle links just in case you wanted to give those the old spicy click. Join us on Discord or anywhere else where Splattercats can be found. but let's dive straight on in. So what is Of Ash and Steel? Of Ash and Steel is an open world RPG in which you're a character that washes up on an island that's part of an empire that recently lost track of that island. So you're part of like a crumbling empire. Think like the final days of like Rome, or think the final days of a medieval empire that once conquered the entire world, but now it's slowly losing everything along its borders to unknown invasions, forces, things of that nature. You went out to explore and figured out what happened to a particular island. Unfortunately, that trip did not go very well for you into the hinterland. You washed up on shores with nothing but like a knife and some rags and some pants on your butt, and now you've just got to find your way. The game doesn't give you a whole lot of direction. It is absolutely chock-a-block with quests though, and this is one of those games where exploration is 100% gonna be rewarded if you decide to look inside the weird little corners and inside the niches and inside the nooks and crannies of the game. You will find things that are worth looting, things that are worth interacting with, fights that you probably can't handle that'll end up with you dying instantly, but ultimately that's the fun thing about exploration RPGs like this. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking to yourself, Splattercat, rock up on that bug and beat his brains in. Probably not gonna go very well if I decide to do that, because in this game, your character is sort of like, he's not a nobleman, but he's a cartographer. You are not a man of the steel, a man of the sword. You're just a guy that's like an intellectual that was on a boat that basically got knocked over by bandits and rough wind. And so in this game, you need to understand that you aren't shit. From the beginning of this, oh my god, what in the hell is that thing? From the beginning of this game, you will find very, very quickly that your character basically has no combat resources to draw on. You whip a weapon around like you don't know what you're doing. If you actually manage to damage or injure something, it's probably by accident, in all honesty. Oh good, it aggroed me. What is it? How hard does it hit? I don't know what it is, man. I definitely don't want to find out, though. Right now, I'm just kind of exploring, dude. The storyline says I have to make it to some major city, but every single road into that major city is, like, coated with monsters, dude. They are everywhere, and so I've been slowly sort of trickling through the map, killing the things that I feel like I can handle. I took down a couple of bandits way back over that way to, like, the north. I took down this guy right here, actually. I was on a quest with him, but he was walking too slow, so I left him over here. This guy said that one of his friends wound up dead, and so I kind of like left him back over here. He wanted to go look for him. Oh, look, a wolf. Is it a tough wolf? Yes, it's one of the tough wolves. Oh, my God. Well, I mean, he's doing a little bit of damage to it. I got to wait for it to slow down, though. There we go. Got him with one good chop right there. I don't know if it helped out in the overall assembly of the fight, but I'll give it a try. Like, I'll throw a couple swings at him just in the off chance that I do damage. Let me dodge on out of the way. Combat in this game starts out pretty simple, but as you get further on into the game, from the amount of skills that I've seen on various traders and stuff like that you can learn, it seems, oh my god, this guy just bit the hell out of me. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, I'm gonna pop a health potion real fast. Just drink that in the middle of combat real quick. You kill that thing yet? Aw, dude, it fell off the cliff. That means we don't get any loot, bro. What about our loot? Man, no loot for us, I guess. I was hoping we'd get a little bit of loot off that guy, and because he scored the final blow, anybody that scores the final hit in this game gets the lion's share of the XP, so we only got like 10 XP out of that fight. I suppose it's better than nothing. XPing in this game, it is going to happen slower than you would like it to happen. There are a very select grouping of enemies that you can actually take down in this game when you're like a level 4 character, and everything else like that big wolf that just attacked us, is basically gonna one-shot you instantly, so be careful with it. This rat thing right here, though, I think I can take him, so he's down. There's another one over on this side. He's gonna chuck something at me. I'm just gonna swing on out of the way. I'm gonna try to get 2 hits off right there. Sometimes when I get greedy for the double hit, they actually squeeze in an attack prior, but like, we managed to get lucky on that front. 80 XP the richer. It's gonna take us like 4,000 to get, we had a fork on him. Nice, I'm sure that'll sell for like 1 gold. Some berries, I'll take some berries. I haven't gotten into alchemy and everything else, but this game does have a large fleshed out selection of crafting that you can do. The thing is, this game functions on an advancement system, just like you would have seen from a title like Gothic, where you have to find trainers, you have to pay them a lot of money, and when you pay them a lot of money, they will then teach you how to do that thing, and unfortunately, cash is just very, very slow to accumulate in this game. Is this your guy right here?
He's who we're looking for.
Okay, did that update the quest at all? I'm not tracking it right now. Oh, I don't think he actually had a quest. All right, well, can I tell him? I found your friend, he's dead. There we go.
I found your friend. He's dead.
I knew we shouldn't have gone drinking. And I've got to look his wife in the eye. Thank you. Here's something for your trouble. I'll be heading back to the village now. What's your name, anyways?
Tristan.
Thanks again for your help, Tristan. Farewell.
What did we get? Did we get something good? Yo, 150 bucks? I'll take 150 bucks. I'm broke as a joke right now. I only have like 436. I've been calling him Groschen because I don't know why, but this game, he kind of looks vaguely similar to the dude from Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's Henry. He's come to see us. But anyways, 150 bucks is actually a pretty good cash infusion right there. Unfortunately, I don't have the stats to learn any of the trade skills that I want. Advancement in this game, though, is fairly in-depth. Like, after 4 hours, you can see here that I have not learned very many things. I got basic crafting, which I don't have any recipes for because I haven't found any recipes. And then I have basic combat training, which the leader of the local knights taught me how to do in exchange for like 100 bucks. It gives me a heavy strike. I don't exactly know how to use the heavy strike. This is not going to be a game that holds your hand or tells you exactly what's going on while you're playing it. It took me a solid 15 minutes to figure out how to take out my bow, just because this game has a control method with ranged weapons that I've never seen before in any other title. To unsheath your weapon, for those of you that may end up wondering if you purchase this game, right-click while you don't have a weapon out, and that's how you take out your ranged weapon. It's very, very simple, and yet it took me a little bit just to trip over it. As you may have noticed inside that conversation, the audio balancing in this game seems to be kind of like a work in progress. When I said wonky jank, I meant wonky jank. Everything that you expect from a Piranha Bytes game, you should expect it here, both the good and the bad. In fact, I would boil my entire set of thoughts about this game down to that. Like, did you enjoy playing Risen 1? Not the other Risen games, like just Risen 1 is what this game reminds me of the most. I loved Risen, and so I like the game very, very much. But like, that's kind of how I would tear it. We do have a job board over here. Not everything on here is going to be a job. Some things on here are just telling you the comes and goings of like, oh, this is where a festival's at. Oh, if you want to chop wood, make like 50 gold. If you want to help somebody clear out the basement of a tavern and do menial labor, you can do that. But we can see what's inside of here. There's a crafting order right there for someday whenever I learn how to craft. This guy needs help chopping wood. That seems like something that I might be suited for. Maybe I've found a bunch of things in this game that give you free attribute point increases, like when you complete them, or when you drink them, or when you cook them, or whatever else. And so anyways, might actually end up with us getting a little bit stronger, because this is just that kind of game where if you go out and mine and whatnot occasionally, it seems like quests related to things that are physical and require a lot of muscle may actually give you stats, but it's only happened once or twice. We need a smithy worker. Inquire with William the blacksmith. Okay, I would like to learn to smithy. The rune master is looking for a helper that does meticulous work. Okay, like, I definitely need a job, dude. This unemployment thing out here in the provincial hinterlands is not working out for me. The Eastern Mine has paused operations. No new workers accepted. No entry by order of Governor Ratwald. All right. Captains and sailors. Greyshaft Harbor is taking ships to be laid up. I mean, I'll take everything, I suppose. There are little villages and camps and things you'll find from time to time with the various factions inside of the game. They seem to be alluding to the fact that later on down the line in this title, we are going to have to like pick factions to ultimately help take over the island. I just haven't gotten there yet in my 3 or 4 hours. I haven't gotten to a lot of things, in all fairness. When I say that this is a slow burn game, I absolutely mean that. This is not going to be a game where you can sit down for 25 minutes and get anything done. It's barely a game where you can sit down for like 2 hours and get anything actionable done. There are dig spots, there's treasure, there's a mining node right there, but I don't know how to mine because I don't have the strength to mine. This right here is called Ronza. So the game has a mini game, and in fact, an entirely different skill tree, by the way. If you have this over on this side, like, there's an entirely different area. Oh, Ranta, there we go. Ranta has its own tab. It hasn't been ungraded yet because I haven't done Ranta yet. Ranta is a martial art that's practiced on the island, which is basically like their kumite. It's guys punching each other in the face until somebody falls down. I haven't done Ranta yet because it's really, really expensive to join the Ranta League. It's like $100, and it takes a long time to get $100 in this game. And so I am very, very hesitant to part with my coin to potentially get just like busted in the mouth. But I guess we can actually give it a go and just save beforehand. All right, well, let's see how Ranta goes. I'll pay the 100 gold. We'll fight, I don't know, dude, Lou the Thrasher? Like, everybody here seems like they're probably going to tune me up, dude. I'm kind of soft. Like, I'm not built hard. So Ranta in this game is basically just counters and parries. So it's a turn-based combat system when you do the kumite with people, where you got to pick a body part you want to strike at. You've got action points and you've got defensive points, basically. You've got to pick which parts of your body that you want to protect. So, like, I can block to the head, and then let's go block to the legs. That sounds all right. He probably expects me to go for his head, so, like, I'm going to go for a disruptive strike to the gut. It can't be blocked, but it can be parried, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. I got him for 10 damage right there. Blocked his attack, which is good, and then I took one to the gut. All right, fair enough. Let's go for the legs real fast. We'll do double damage to the legs, and then we'll line them up with just a quick jab to the body, and then we'll go with a block to the head, and then we'll go with a block to the torso. Oh, he went with total defense. Okay, so he blocks everything. Okay, we blocked that right there, so that's good. Now we know that he can't block this turn, though, so I'm pretty sure we want to, like, go in on him. Like, it said that he can't do defensive stuff on this turn, so, like, let's see if we can hit him hard. I'm going to continue blocking my head and blocking my body, and hopefully that works out. Yeah, 25 right there, 10 right there. Okay, block. Block, there we go. All right, I don't know if there's any way to tell what he's actually going to go for when we're doing Ranta, but, like, ooh, we got a bunch of stuff. So we can predict your enemy's attack or defense direction. Adds 2 abilities to your hand, or we can go with Jawbreaker. We deal triple damage. It cannot be blocked, but it can be parried. We lose attack points and defense. So that's like the giant haymaker right there. Let's predict what he's going to do. So he's got a counterattack on his legs right now. That's fine. I think I can live with that. Let's go with a heavy blow to the head, maybe. I'm a little worried he's going to slip it, but, like, we'll keep our same defense going, too, where we defend the body and we defend the head. I'm not too worried about the legs right now. Okay, big backhand. Big chunk. Okay, he got my legs right there. Block that, though. We got a little bit of an advantage over him at the moment. I still have 4, so I think I'll probably...
punch him in the face.
Let's change up our tactics, maybe? I don't know if I want to risk both my points on a counterattack here. Like, I know he's going to go for my head at some point, but I feel like defending the head and defending the body has been going pretty well for us thus far. Let's throw out... Let's go with just some normal punches. We'll see what we can do here. And just pray to God he's not defended up. Okay. Okay. I'll take that. I mean, we got something off. Oh, he's going all for my legs now. Okay. Okay. Let's block to the legs. And then we'll block to the head. I don't have enough focus points to really do anything right now. I'm going to go for a jab to the head, a jab to the body, and then a jab to the legs, and hopefully he doesn't have a counter. Yeah! I am the king of hand-to-hand combat, for I have won the Ranta fight. And so apparently we have an entirely different form of leveling up. We've got a new ability. We can reinvigorate mid-fight. And that's what I mean. Like, you see that little mini-game right there? There's little mini-games for everything in this game. From local fist-fighting, to brawling, to fishing, to sharpening your weapon, to blacksmithing, to leatherworking. Like, everything has, like, a little mini-game inside of this title that just freshens things up and makes it entertaining to do. I'm glad that we did Ranta right there. I need to figure out a way that I can consistently predict what the enemy is going to do so that I can avoid getting hard countered, dude, in Ranta. It's bad. You don't want to get hard countered. there anything lootable around here? What is that? Can I loot that? No, it's just a bottle that's sitting there. Okay. We did make 50 gold in profit from that fight, which is really, really nice. So I'll take that, dude. I don't know if we got any XP for it. I wasn't paying attention to my XP meter. I think we did, because it looks like I'm almost halfway to a level, which I definitely wasn't just like a minute ago. What's this camp up here? Is it bad? Am I about to aggro something? Have I already been through here? Possibly. Oh, I can make potions, huh? Interesting. I would like to make potions. Oh, Christ, goblins, dude. So I know what you're thinking. In games like this, normally goblins are not that big of a deal. In this game, goblins are a big problem. You see how little damage I did right there? Goblins are way doper than I am as it stands right now. If I can cleave through them, I think we'll be all right. But I think I'm going to have to keep... Oh, opened up my Steam interface right there. I'm going to have to keep falling back like a maniac and separating them, because they're way faster and scarier than I am. I'm going to put my weapon away real quick so that I can actually get some speed. Oh, somebody came over to help. Nice, dude. Kiting things back to the town guards in this game, real strong idea. I highly recommend it. There we go. Get a couple hits off on him. Back up. Come here. We got to be super careful about this, though, because if I hit that villager right there, he'll aggro me. So this game doesn't disable friendly fire. If you accidentally hit somebody in combat, they will aggro you, and like the whole town will come and kick your ass. And so I would have gotten more aggressive about attacking that guy right there if this fisherman hadn't jumped in. Unfortunately, we basically got no XP for that. I loot everything because there's no... I know what you're thinking. Why is Splattercat looting cutlery? Like, is that really that effective and or useful when it comes to making money? No. But everything in this game is worth like 1 or 2 coins, and you have no weight limit as far as I've seen so far, and you have no inventory space limits. So pick up whatever you want and do whatever you want. You feel me? Like, that's kind of like... You can make money the hard way by doing a quest that gives you like 150 bucks, or you can do things the easy way by looting 900 different trash items off the ground and then just utilizing those. Well, at least I know where a potion bench is now. I have one potion diagram, but I haven't learned basic survivalism yet. I'd love to learn it, but I just haven't found anybody that actually offers it. Yeah, nobody in town seems to teach survivalism, and so I think I have all the materials I need to cook off a fat batch of health potions, which would either sell for decent money, or I could actually use them to keep myself alive when I take too much damage. But for right now, I suppose we just head on further down the road and see where the adventure takes us. Like, this fisherman down here gave me a quest to walk all the way upriver and figure out what's blocking the tide, because his fish yields have gone down a ton as of late. But I don't know if I want to walk that much. Like, I don't know if I'm in a walking mood right now. And if I am in a walking mood, I want to walk somewhere that potentially has treasure or good things that I can greedily stuff into my pockets. Something that gives attribute points or something. So, like, we'll get off the beaten trail for a little bit and have a little bit of a look around. Down there, we've got more fishermen doing fisherman stuff. Okay. Let's stick to the road for a minute. I don't really know where I'm going because this game has no map until you actually purchase one. It also has no map markers for quests or anything else. And so this is definitely an old school RPG where you gotta listen to the description when they give you the quest. Otherwise, strong chance you may end up completely and totally off the beaten trail and not know exactly where you're going. There's a little hidden campfire back there. What's up this way? Looks like I killed all the monsters earlier. There's some drink, there's some spices, and a potato. Okay, so maybe some kind of like improvised altar that somebody made up here. Fair enough. It looks like we've also got ruins over here. How bad are the ruins gonna be? You do have to read signs in this game to figure out where you're going. So it looks like if we want to go to Grayshaft, which is like a major city, they want me to go in this direction, so I'll have a little look around. Anything worth looting? If we could avoid doing like those little loading screens as it loads in like another chunk as I'm navigating, yeah, like that right there, exactly. as I'm navigating tight spaces on a ledge where I'll definitely fall to my death, I'd appreciate it. That would be much appreciated. There is some considerable chunkiness in this game when it auto-saves or when it's loading chunks. Keep that in mind. I'm running on hardware right now that's designed for like top-of-the-end streaming, so, you know, 5080s and stuff like that. And if it's taxing my system, it'll more than likely tax yours. I saw something move up there. What was it? A wolf? If it's like one of the little weak ones, I can take him. If it's one of the adult ones, he's about to eat my lunch. It's an adult. Oh, God. Okay, okay. All right. I don't know if I should kite him back to guards or what I should do here. Oh, it doesn't look like he can actually leave like his little hovel over here. It looks like he's actually leashed. Okay, I can live with that. We'll just leave him where he stands then. Those guys right there, it takes me like 15 hits to kill him, but it takes him like 1 hit to kill me. And so the fight has to go off flawlessly as it stands right now. Remember, you're not the hero in this story. You're just some guy that washed up on the shores of a heroic story happening, and you're basically just an NPC, so stay out of the way for the most part. 2 paths. One that looks like it goes to a village. I mean, we've got little pennants and things around, and another one that looks like it goes somewhere else. I'm gonna vote for something else right now, just to see what we find. There are vaulting and mantling animations in this game. They can be kind of wonky though, so like spam the space bar when you're trying to get up over a thing, and what it'll do is like midway through your climb, you can initiate another climb. The first climb, ooh, a silver candle holder, hell yeah. Typically the first climb won't work and you'll just fall back down, but the double climb method, that's what I'm calling it for right now. Anytime I want to climb something, I just, oh, a silver crown, hell yeah. A lockpick? Oh, there's a chest back there. I see it. Is it locked though? What is that? Berries? Berries not quite as good as silver, but you can eat them. We have a chest over here, but it is indeed locked. So we would have to ferret out exactly where the key's at before we could actually make use of it. And I don't know lockpicking yet either, because you have to learn that from like a thieves guild or something before you're going to be able to use it. So we're kind of like SOL and have no options. Let's continue down this part of the road, and hopefully it doesn't end up with me getting mangled. For the amount of bugginess and wonkiness the game has going on, though, it is a really, really beautiful title. Like, it's a good-looking game. Like, they've got the draw distance dialed in. There's been weather so far. There's also weird little things that can happen, like in combat, if you try to dash or you try to run, but there's, like, a mud puddle on the battlefield. You slip and fall in the mud puddle, and enemies do it, too, and then you can get, like, a bunch of free hits. I think I can take these guys. I think. These look like the baby ones. And God knows I need the XP, so like, I'm just gonna go for it. Okay, he's gonna evade. Let me lock onto him real quick. Got him. There we go. Got him with the second swing. Combat in this game is pretty lunky and clunky, but I haven't really brought it up this entire time because I don't know how much that's going to change once I actually get the trained combat animations. It may smoothen out quite a bit. Like, for example, I love this game's dash. Like, I think this game's dash is actually really, really satisfying, depending on what weapon you're actually using, and it does give you iframes. Can I loot that spear? I was thinking maybe I could loot that spear. The hell is this? I have been finding like there's these big stone tablets every now and again. They're scattered all over the place. When I try to interact with him, he says that he's not educated enough to interact with him. I'm guessing it has something to do with this over here, ancient knowledge. Like, I don't know what any of these do because I haven't found any of them yet. I'm guessing that, like, for world sense, that's going to be like you notice that there's a secret wall or you notice that there's something buried here when you're walking by. Will to live, I'm guessing, is like different procs and things that can happen in combat, but who knows, dude? 4 hours into the game, and there are so many mechanics that I have not interacted with that I couldn't honestly say, but the promised depth of the future does make me feel happy. It's always nice when you've got something to look forward to that's a little bit unanswered inside of a title. Like, the game doesn't directly lay out for you exactly what you're gonna get. Is that a young one? Okay, if that, ow, he bit me. What a jerk. But he only did a little bit of damage. If you're finding that you take way too much damage, I would increase your fortitude stat. I think it just has armor baked into it when you level it up. It says that it gives you protection against all types of damage. And right now, the numbers on my armor aren't adding up to what I have on my resistances over here. So it looks like every, 2 to 3 points of fortitude you just get flat baseline mitigation to your entire body, which is pretty good, actually. Did I loot the meat off of him? Okay. I'll probably eat a meat right now, real fast, just to top off my health. And then inside, what is that thing right there? It's like a giant statue? Something bad gonna happen over here, dude. They put that there for a reason, to draw you over and make you come look at it. I know how RPG world design works, and you only put something big and tall that you can see from a long ways off if something you want the player to go over there and take a look at it. It's just a lady.
I can sense you. You're a good man.
Is everything all right?
Yes. Everything's all right. Thank you for asking. Would you mind helping me with one little trifle?
Look, Night Rain has the same amount of players as Elden Ring. It's funny.
Could you read me this
16,800. Almost to the number.
My sister sent it to me, but I just can't make out the words.
Certainly. Give me one moment.
Wow, Kingdom Come dropped down.
I'm gonna raise the volume on the voices too, because they're just mixed weird from the beginning of the game. What's up with this letter right here? Letters should be over here. The blind woman's note. Darlene, spiteful sister mine, I hope this letter finds you in the grave. Words can't even begin to express the hatred that I bear for you. You abandoned our family, abandoned our profession for what? Some good-for-nothing loud on Grayshaft, you empty-headed wench. I hope you're both rotting in a ditch somewhere, living off scraps as you deserve. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Wow, that's a real emotional response. Not a lot of not a lot of delicate, tactful words chosen there.
I read the letter. It's definitely from your sister.
Marvelous. Tell me what it says.
She says she hates you.
She says she hates you. I'm not comfortable reading the rest. It's nothing but a stream of insults in your direction.
Oh, that certainly sounds like my sister. We never did see eye to eye. I wrote to her not long ago, hoping to make peace, but no matter. Can't bring back the past. Thank you for your help. Here, something to eat.
I mean, it's a free 100 XP, dude. That's 2 monsters. The meter is filling. I'm just gonna loot this shrine because, forget these people and their gods. I don't care about that. Completely and totally irrelevant to me. That's just free food that's sitting on a shelf. There is a crime and punishment system in this game. You can do sneakiness and burglary and things of that nature, but I haven't found anybody that specializes in burglary yet to teach me how to do it. I found one guy, but he ran off after I did a quest for him, and I don't know where he is now. What is that thing? Okay, so it's a bug with an artillery booty hole. Gotcha. Well, it's dead now. So, it hath been vanquished, and frankly, it gave a decent amount of XP. I'll definitely take that. I need road signs or something to guide myself with right now. There we go. That'll work. So, the Grayshaftian Hound is over there, and the Mercenary Hall is that way. Grayshaftian Hound, maybe? Okay, the Grayshaftian Hound has about 1 million wolves in front of it, so, now I'm scared for my safety. Also, the sun's going down, which makes me feel nervous. There's 2 of them up here. Are they the little ones or the big ones?
I've noticed some people can't say the word wolf.
They'll
say wolf. Wolf. Like W-U-V, wolf. They'll say wolf.
The big ones.
Or warsh. I noticed they'll say warsh or wolf. And it's some kind of backwoods American, a little bit of backwoods American there, a little backwater slur, a little bit.
So I don't know if I can handle these dudes. We can give it the old college try. Yeah, but he just bit me in the face, so somehow I doubt it. Oh, there's a bug, too. Fantastic. Okay, we need to run for it then. Now would be the time to vacate the premises because everything on Earth is trying to kill me. I will eat a meat real fast to get some health back, and then just keep kiting him around this rock if I can manage it. If I can open up on the bug, we might be okay. The bug wants me real bad. Like, the bug is feeling this fight right now. You, on the other hand, well, I did a little bit of damage. Not like a lot, but a little bit. Is he going to jump at me?
Can't tell if the combat's good or not.
I never know when he's going to do that jump attack, dude. Yeah, like, it's so fast. It has, like, no telegraph to be spoken of. Ow, dude. Drink a potion. I'm going to wait to regenerate for a second, and then I'll see if I can engage with him.
You back up a
There
lot, and you're lucky you don't
I knew
chain
it was
aggro
coming,
everything
but I didn't know
else.
when. Let's see if I can drag him around this corner right here and smack him when he comes around it. See if it, like, interferes with his pathfinding. I mean, we got, like, a little bit of something going right there.
What?
Oh, dude, he's got so much HP.
Jank.
Though. Yeah, you don't like this corner, do you? That's okay. Just eat up your dodge right there.
You're not really hitting him, are you? Oh, I guess you are.
Okay, so you can't really parry him, and now I'm out of strength. Christ. Put the weapon away. I gotta eat some meat. I'm just gonna kite him back to town. I think that's my best bet right now. Eat the meat. Just get some regeneration going. And then this guy, if he still wants it, I'm going to drag him up to this mercenary camp. He's too tough for me. Ow, my ass! Villagers, save me! Help me! I'm just going to hide behind you. You're way better and scarier than I am. There you go.
Oh,
I
you're
dodged my
so
attack and took his. I was trying to
lucky.
snipe the XP right
You're
at the end of
so
the fight.
lucky.
God, dude. All right, I'm going to have to cook off some more dinner, too. We got to find, like, a camp.
The game looks good, but it's also like, it sort of looks like a single player. No. Yeah, I guess the game kind of memory leaks after a while. I think I've been in here once before, but I don't know. Seems like they want me to go in right here, yeah. So... Whoa. That's some poppin'.
fire around here. What's up with this village? Is anything going on? I don't even know where I am right now. Looks like a tavern, maybe? Bounty hunters. Okay. Anybody with a name around here? Or is everybody just a generic bounty hunter?
Accepting any orders today. It's our bookkeeping day.
I'm just looking around.
Oh, not from around here. What's your name?
Tristan.
Glad to make your acquaintance, Tristan. My name's August. You wouldn't happen to be looking for work, would you?
I might be. What sort of work?
Oh, this is the mercenary hall. What sort of work were you expecting to find here?
Well, mercenary work?
The big wars are all over, and we're just ordinary folk now. So you interested in some work?
I think I am. But you still haven't said what sort.
Just pass an invitation along to a friend of mine. Haven't seen him in years, what with me busy here with work, and him over in the outskirts.
All right. Like a letter. All right. Like a letter.
No, just tell him. His name's Prax. Tell him his friend is inviting him to do some drinking and whoring. Bring him here, and then we'll go over to the Hound together.
Alright, so like, where was he at? Oh, I just gotta find him. Okay, it said that he's in the outskirts somewhere. I can pick that lock right there. Is this stuff all protected? Like, yeah, that's stealing. Okay. So, like, there's definitely, like, a badass sword right there that I would like to steal. I'm gonna try to steal it because having a better weapon would be good. But will they see me if I just, like, yoink this? I've yoinked it. Is it good? Was that even worth the effort? If I had 18 strength, yeah, dude, that thing does 30 damage. My current weapon is slow as hell and only does 15. So it's double the damage of what I have, but now we gotta see if I got caught. I don't think I got caught, but I can't find a tab in it or anything anywhere that tells me exactly what my fines are or if I have outstanding crimes. So I'm not really too sure whether or not I was seen, in all fairness. I would like to find somebody to teach me in survivalism, though. If you're looking for what the big stones look like that have ancient knowledge on them, they're those things right there. They're all over the place. I've seen at least 4 or 5 of them at this point, just like exploring and moving around the map. Kind of looks like somebody might hide something right there. There's dig spots, and so, you know, every now and again I get tempted. Armor reinforcement. I don't have that skill either, but there's an armorer's bench over here. Okay, and there's the anvil, just in case you wanted to do smithing. You can make, you know, basic stuff if you want to.
Any of you boys,
I don't have any of the basic stuff. There's also forges, there's grindstones, you know, leather working stations, all the stuff that you would expect to see inside of a crafting system. Is any of this stuff lootable out of the top of this dummy? It is. Well, arrows are hella expensive, and I have had none this entire game, so I'll take all of it, dude. Anything I can possibly sell off when we get to, like, the next town over. There's a sword back here behind the counter that's not flagged as stealing. Is it good? It is good, but we've got to be really strong to use it. Okay. At least it's got some value. If nothing else, I can sell it. Everything else that I picked up is worth a couple gold, too. Looks like there's an old mine or something out back, too. What's inside of here? Anything awesome? Oh, is that an armor? It's their stockpile, but I can't loot anything from it. What's in the bag? Eggs? I definitely need those. I'll take the eggs because I can cook those off into dinner.
I don't know how to use lockpicks.
But everything else isn't interactable. I was hoping I could score myself some actual body armor. If I can save up like 1,000 gold, I found one vendor that has a body armor on him, and it gives me like 25, like gives me 10 to 25 resistance to every damage type, which I actually think would be pretty major for my character right now, considering we're just rolling around nude, hoping that the attacks don't penetrate. On the plus side, we found our way to town, so like, let's go have a look and see what this place. Hey, herbal tea with honey, I'll take that. If nobody else was, probably belongs to that guard right there. Guards in this game kick my ass, dude. They're so tough. If you commit a crime, so I did what everybody does in every RPG when I first started playing this game. I promptly started looting and stealing everything I could get my hands on. What is that? A house full of bugs? You guys got a fumigation issue. A woodwalker. Okay. Well, he just farted out a whole bunch of little baby bugs. I'm probably going to take a bunch of damage if I wander into the baby bug swarm. So I'm just going to, like, fall back and wait for them to disperse. Are you guys aware of the fact that you have a bug problem here in town? Like a very, very real bug problem. Like these midges, man, they're acting crazy. Sometimes in these fields out here, too, there's these things called rock chewers. Oh, dude, rock chewers are super bad. They are crazy high level and they hurt like hell. Are those things still seriously chasing me? Good Lord. Those things have a long duration on them. And I don't want to, like, tempt the universe and figure out what they actually do. Ooh, a sack, huh? Camp supplies and a lockpick. Can't use it, but I'll take it. What's inside of there? I saw something glow. A sheepy. Can I pet it? No, I can't pet the sheep. Sheeps are just so fluffy, man. I just want to hug them. I don't know what it is about sheep, but I see myself as sheep, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm going to hug that thing. Brock doesn't want to talk right now. He's not in a mood to talk. I just barged into his house at 2 in the morning. A temple guard. These guys right here, they'll cure your diseases and whatnot, from what I recall. That's right, there's survival aspects to this game. You have to eat, you have to drink, you have to sleep. Like, you can get diseases that are just on you, and then you have to, like, get them cured at a temple or whatever. Definitely some of those little Skyrim elements in there that keep the game fresh and interesting. For right now, though, we need to find ourselves, like, a tavern so that I can sleep till... This guy's name is Mustard? Mustard on the beat, ho. Oh, nope, never mind. He did not. He was not on the beat.
Where is that from? Mustard on the beat, ho? Where's that from? That's a rapper, and I can't remember who it is. Yeah, I forgot about Mustard on the beat, huh?
It's 2 in the morning. Why are you playing a lute at 2 in the morning? Do you want all your neighbors to hate you? Over here just having a jam session? Playing a little Oasis or something, dude? Go back inside for that. Put yourself inside walls. This is rude civic behavior. At 5 in the evening, I have no complaints. But, bro, it is so late at night right now. I don't even think we're inside the city proper. I think those are the town gates over there. And this place is already pretty chunky, man. Like, I've been walking through it for a minute with edits, just trying to, like, figure out where... I was trying to get into the city?
Greetings. I was simply trying to get into the city.
There's 200 gold to enter.
Where can I get 200 gold?
Where the depths am I supposed to get that?
Why should I care?
Are you guards or bandits?
Get lost.
Unfortunate. I don't want to part with my... I have $500 right now. I am so close to getting a suit of armor if I can just earn a little bit more money. And so I'm not quite ready to give up half of my net worth just to get into the city right now. But my closing thoughts about this game. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I think that your enjoyment of this game is going to be like highly predicated by how much you enjoy wonky jank
How much of a
RPGs.
sadist you are.
I'm talking about things like Risen. I'm talking about stuff like Gothic, Egro Draconis, Outward. All of those types of titles, because this game is more or less kind of similar in its assemblage. Like, there are a plethora of bugs. None of them, for me thus far, have been game-breaking, but they have definitely been distracting or caused me to, like, find a workaround in order to get the thing to happen that I wanted to happen. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the audio balance is all over the place, and some conversations have, like, an echo. It's usually the emergent commentary, like when you're walking through the wilderness and he's like, oh, berries. It's like the voice is being played 50 times all at once while walking through the world. The game is a little light on explanation. It does have like pop-up tutorials and whatnot, but there's still been a number of things that I've had to figure out on my own. Combat in general feels super clunky, but on that front, I'm not sure whether or not it's caused by my character not being officially trained with weapons yet. Like, I have the most basic training there is, but there are further trainings that say that they change your attack combo and whatnot, so it's possible that lack of fluidity is just due to the fact that my character is low level. Those things aside, the game does make up for those shortcomings in other ways. That is to say, it is a sprawling open-world RPG with loot in every corner, quests hidden everywhere, loads of mini-games, professions, side quests, activities, treasure hunts, crafting, fishing, sharpening your weapon. There's loads and loads of stuff to do in this game. Read books if you want. After 4 hours, I will warn you that this is a slow burner, though. Getting a single level takes a while. And it also takes a little bit for the game to dig in and really get you immersed. However, once I got there, I started having a really, really great time. And so with that time under my belt, well, it's hard to appraise a game that you've played 4 hours of when the game could potentially be like 100 hours long. And there are a load of like systems and mechanics that I haven't even interacted with yet after all that time. So the way that I'll boil it down is that I enjoyed my time with the game, and I will be continuing to play it. It's right up my alley. I enjoy these sort of wonky jank titles. I think if you're looking for a highly polished experience, something like Kingdom Come Deliverance that's silky and buttery all the way down to the core and doesn't have a whole lot of like things wrong with it anymore, this will not be that game. But for me, I had a good time with it. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so that you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, it was of ash and steel. Tomorrow it'll be something else. Later, folks.
Ugh. Sadist games. I don't think I can do them anymore. Dark Souls, etc. Maybe I'm just getting worse. Maybe I'm bad in my old age. Me and my 1200 Fortnite wins, we suck. Sounds like good ideas with bottom shelf execution. Oh. Yeah.
It's no secret that I have a deep love for Eastern games, so when Where Winds Meet landed on my radar this past year, and on top of that, every costume tells a story. You can see where they're from, what they do, you can tell someone probably spent weeks designing these outfits, and there are so many specific historically inspired designs and clearly a lot of effort and respect. And while it might not be quite as polished as some of those games, it is more polished than some of the $70 games we have gotten these past few years, which hopefully puts some much needed pressure on the quality that should be expected from AAA, and rightfully so. Because why would somebody spend that much money on a broken game when free alternatives like this exist that actually work? And here's what's really cool. You can actually play this completely solo if you want, or jump into the more MMO-esque stuff when you feel like it. I have been playing mostly solo, just exploring, talking to NPCs, doing my own thing. But I did turn on the feature and will sometimes see other players running around in towns, and it is nice. Like, the world feels alive.
I don't need another Souls-like. New World already died. Aw.
But nobody is forcing me to group up or be social unless I want to. And the game really is whatever you make it You want to be in the weeds with all the lore, going deep on every detail, piecing together mysteries, talking to every NPC for hours? You can do that. You want to ignore all of that and just vibe on your horse, fighting every enemy you see?
Today is all about free games. For the past 8 years, I have dedicated every November to Free Games Month, where I play only free games all month long here on the channel. So after going through literally hundreds of free games over the years, I've made a list. Let's call this the ultimate list of free games. 2 notes first, though. These are actual free games. There's no paywalls, no microtransactions outside of cosmetic stuff, and definitely no predatory monetization, you know, like we see in a lot of free-to-play games. Number 2 is I love strategy games, and so you're going to see a lot of strategy games and stuff like that in my list here. But let's begin with the Colony Builders section of the list, and that is, first up, Wildlands. Wildlands is a real-time strategy and colony builder heavily inspired by Settlers 2. Over the years, it has grown with more depth, more variety. That's something you will see with a lot of these in here. They came out like in the that take you to the downloads if they're not on Steam, and if they are on Steam, I'll have the Steam page in there. But there is Wildlands. Up next, we have Unknown Horizons. This is an open source, economic simulation game inspired by the original Anno. And like Anno, you start out in an archipelago, you go build your town on an island, but as you get the resources going in and the trade routes and the town growing well, you branch out to other islands. You can live peacefully, you know, or you can go raid and maraud and all that other good stuff, but heavily inspired by the original Anno. Up next, we have Kingdom Classic. If you're familiar with the Kingdom games, if you're not familiar with the Kingdom games, I should say, this one is a side-scrolling kingdom builder. You are a king, and you run around collecting coins outside in the world, bring them back to pay peasants. The peasants will help build your town up. There's a bunch of Kingdom games out there. This one is the original one, which they're giving away for free over on Steam. And still a good amount of gameplay even with this one here. But you go in, build your town. At night, terrible things come in and try to destroy your town, but you go out next day, collect more coins, get more peasants in, build your town up more. There's Kingdom Classic. Speaking of classics, Dwarf Fortress. This is the inspiration for games like RimWorld, Minecraft. If you're not familiar with Dwarf Fortress, one of the best games ever made, in my opinion. There is a Steam version, which you can pay for, of course, but the classic is still updated. You just don't get the artwork. You get beautiful ASCII. No music. The UI is, of course, going to be not as pleasant as the Steam version, but it is still available for free. Take your band of dwarves and set out into the wilderness, build a new mountain home. It's completely a sandbox. Whether you want to build like a fortress like Moria, or a glass tower temple, or a castle, or whatever, pirate ships of dwarven raiders, you do whatever you want. But just remember, when the necromancers, goblins, and forgotten beasts come a-knocking, losing is fun. Up next, we have Keeper RL. Keeper RL, like Dwarf Fortress, has a Steam version, of course, that you can pay for, but you can also play a free version. And like Dwarf Fortress, you can play ASCII mode, so you don't get any graphics or sound, but it is free, and you can pick it up on the Keeper RL website. Also, the dev has a thing on the website where you can donate to charity to get the game for free. If you send $20 to a wildlife charity and send your proof, they'll send you the game. If you're not familiar with Keeper RL, it is similar to Dwarf Fortress, where it's a dungeon building colony sim, but you're the bad guys. So you invite the goblins and the trolls and the vampires to come live in your colony, and then you go out and you terrorize the happy human farmers and the dwarven fortresses and the castles and whatever else. As you destroy their towns, you get more powerful and you destroy everything around you, assuming you survive their attacks on your fortress. That concludes our colony sim. So now we're into turn-based strategy. We start with FreeCiv. FreeCiv, open source turn-based builder like Civilization, heavily inspired by Civilization. Again, it has evolved over time into its own thing. If you want to compare it to the Civs, it probably fits best between Civ 2 and Civ 3. Maybe a little bit of Civ 4 in there. But it is completely customizable. That's a version, of course, that you can pay for. But you can also play a free version. And like Dwarf Fortress, you can play ASCII mode, so you don't get any graphics or sound. but it is free, and you can pick it up on the Keeper RL website. Also, the dev has a thing on the website where you can donate to charity to get the game for free. If you send $20 to a wildlife charity and send your proof, he'll send you the game. If you're not familiar with Keeper RL, it is similar to Dwarf Fortress, where it's a dungeon building colony sim, but you're the bad guys. So you invite the goblins and the trolls and the vampires to come live in your colony, and then you go out and you terrorize the happy human farmers and the dwarven fortresses and the castles and whatever else. As you destroy their towns, you get more powerful, and you destroy everything around you, assuming you survive their attacks on your fortress. That concludes our colony sim. So now we're into turn-based strategy. We start with FreeCiv. FreeCiv, open source turn-based builder like Civilization, heavily inspired by Civilization. Again, it has evolved over time into its own thing. If you want to compare it to the Civs, it probably fits best between Civ 2 and Civ 3. Maybe a little bit of Civ 4 in there. But it is completely customizable. That's one thing that thrives on, is you can play the game pretty much however you want. So if you want a little bit of this civilization, a little bit of this civilization, you can kind of mix and match and make your own rules for it, as well as your own empires. There's unlimited customization here. But it is basically Civilization, and you can play it online, multiplayer, all that good stuff. Speaking of Civ, we have Unciv up next, another open source remake of Sid Meier's Civilization. This one is streamlined and extremely moddable. You build your civilization, research texts, expand your cities in this turn-based 4X strategy game. Hex-based this time, but a very streamlined...
Wait, what? They made like a deviant fight game now, like a mini game?
Not on Apple, but on Google, if you want to play it on your phone. Speaking of Sid Meier, we have Free Call is up next. This one was, like Free Civ, originally inspired heavily by Colonization. I think they just started out a remake of Sid Meier's Civilization. This one is streamlined. Speaking of Sid Meier, we have Free Call is up next. This one was, like Free Civ, originally inspired heavily by Colonization. I think they just started out making Colonization, but over the years, this came out 30 years ago, over the years it has evolved into its own thing. You start out trying to create an independent nation. You got a few colonists, you go to the New World, and turn-based strategy style, you go out and you meet tribes, go to war, explore the world. Instead of tech, you've got founding fathers that slowly develop your country, and eventually you form your self-sufficient civilization, and you fight for independence. Up next is Remnants of the Precursors. This one is a modernization of Master of Orion, the first Master of Orion. You get a bunch of 10 unique races, and you... Waterworks is up next. We're kind of leaving the 4X world, and we're going into card-based strategy games. This is more... Your town is growing in time. It's very much a board game style. AAA is up next, and this is basically Axis and Allies. Not basically, this is Axis and 2.0 digital version. That is all of that's all for my strategy section. Now we're into war games. Sovel is first up. Sovel Fantasy Warfare. This is a not Warhammer. It's basically an open source turn-based tactical strategy game with high fantasy theme. You build yourself an army, and in this tactical strategy game, you send them out into the world fighting goblins. And we'll begin with the ultimate simulation and management. Some would say one of the best games ever made, and that is OpenTTD. As the name implies, it's inspired by the old Microprose game, Transport Tycoon Deluxe. And of course, over the years, it's far surpassed what Transport Tycoon did. Speaking of OpenTTD, we're going to move into Simutrons 4X, the ultimate space 4X. Speaking of Dwarf Fortress, I've called this the Dwarf Fortress of space, but not in like how it plays, but just in scale and depth. I think even more so than Dwarf Fortress. Made by a sole developer. I think he just wanted to make a space game for himself, but he's thrown it out there so we can enjoy it. But it is incredibly complex and deep game. For instance, if you want to make a missile, you got to first develop the engines for the missile, and then you got to develop the launcher for the missile. Well, then you got to build the magazine to hold the missiles, and then the fire control system to direct the missiles.
Why?
So, yeah,
you're
that's
dumb. Just do that in real life if you
very,
needed to be that technical idiot
become
developer.
A space empire, starting with basically nothing, and a pretty incredible game. Next up, we have Endless Sky. This is a space trading game and combat, of course, inspired by the classic Escape Velocity. You work your way up from a tiny shuttle, cargo ship, or fighter, and you slowly customize and upgrade that ship into a massive fleet of ships if you want. You get money by carrying passengers or cargo, doing little quests, convoys, bounty hunting. You can plunder. You can even capture enemy ships. There's different factions in the game. There's a big story going on. You can take sides in civil wars. It says there's 8 to 16 hours of like main storyline, but you got a bunch of side quests as well. Hundreds of star systems, alien species. Choose between more than 50 ships and several hundred ship upgrades. Next up is Transcendence. This one actually has a paid version on Steam, which has a few extras, but the free version is available on the website. Knave is next up. This is about space exploration, trade, and combat. Of this one, we have Urquan Masters HD.
Oh, Urquan Masters is free.
And Free Stars, the Urquan Masters. It's Star Control 2.
Yeah.
Just taken in a couple different directions. Classic space game. You know, you go out, you are the last remaining human ship out in the universe. You go out and try to find what's going on. Earth is being attacked by some hostile aliens, so you got to run out there, find some allies, upgrade your ship, and explore thousands of unknown worlds and get dozens of quirky aliens to help. Urquan Masters HD takes the old Star Control and makes it look pretty. HD graphics and all this good stuff. Free Stars tries to preserve the original Star Control art style and sound and all that stuff. Planet S is our final space game. This is an RTS. Your goal is to colonize multiple planets. Almost plays out like almost kind of like an Anno, where you start out as one planet. The RTS section of the video. 100 unique units, hundreds of maps. There's a campaign that...
God, I wouldn't play these all back then. Why would I do it now? I wasn't a PC gamer back then. I was, but I played Diablo 2 like a normal person. Anyways. And Doom 2.
Maybe on Friday. Arc Raiders is voice AI slop though. Yeah, I've heard about this. I've heard that Arc Raiders also utilize AI or something.
Are you playing this old video from like the beginning of the day? It's fucking weird.
Star Citizen's year of playability has been a good thing for a large portion of the player base. But if you're mostly interested in piloting, then it's been disappointment after disappointment. Other than some fighter tunings being changed, there really has been nothing for pilot mains. Hearing about those tactical strike group things was refreshing, but there's one major problem with that. The flight model. I'm fucking sick of it in all honesty. This aim-centric flight model hasn't been engaging unless you have the IQ of a gnat. I get that CIG want to take their time with the testing, but they need to start pushing it out. We're told that streamer bias is a factor as to why testing is closed and behind NDAs. I get it, accurate feedback is needed. But we're at a point where there's little to no interest in the game outside of the newer content brought in with each patch. CIG's claim of record numbers playing the game seems ingenuous when the community is constantly seeing people leave until the game is better. But it's not just the flight model. There's no engaging content for us pilot mains to play. I mean, maybe it would be more engaging if we had a good flight model, but what we really need is a permanent jump down. And I'm purposely not mentioning Ghost Hollow because you need to do FPS stuff just to get it working. And that's the biggest problem for us pilot mains. We don't want our gameplay to be hidden behind FPS stuff. Look at the last event, we finally got a paint for a combat ship as a reward, but we had to do missions that took us out of the cockpit. So guess what I did? Played a different game. Let me make one thing clear. I hate having to do FPS stuff in this game. It's clunky, the time to skill is ridiculously scaled with the armor types, and whoever decided to turn FPS into Call of Duty with those weird fucking armors and weapons has microdosed LSD. Except they haven't microdosed it. They fucking snorted that shit like Charlie fucking Sheen snorting coke off his living girlfriend's tits. And let's not mention Sniper Glenn at fucking night. So fucking stupid. So yeah, I don't think I can take another year if it's going to be like this one. I've taken multiple breaks from Star Citizen this year.
You're an idiot. Why are you playing this game? Wow.
Yeah, and I'll probably quit the game if
The copium of that game and that engine. Jesus Christ. No, I'm not interested in EVE Online anymore. I'm not interested.
Arc Raiders when? Ellen wants to
See,
play
you did
Arc
it again.
Raiders,
You
but-
fucking, you loaded that same fucking video from the beginning of the fucking day. Why are you doing that? Why? It's not even like it's open. Why do you keep doing that, you fucking stupid piece of shit software developer? You know. I don't want this to... No, I want to go back. Okay, I believe I'm going to go to bed. It's Thanksgiving, and I want to be up at a sort of a decent hour. So I'm going to stop now, guys. Thank you so much. This has been a good session. I am going to stop, and thank you so much for your time. I'm going to stop playing games now and go to bed. You've been watching Skycatlive. I am a full-time variety gamer all day, every day. Put me on in the background. Click on the cast face to donate. Come to the YouTube or my Twitch and give me a like, sub, or a follow. Come to my website, which is skycat.live, and it has all the links and a PayPal link. Give me a like, sub, or follow if you like what you saw here. Thank you so much for your time, and I will be back tomorrow for Thanksgiving streaming, and you guys have a wonderful evening. I'm going to stop this recording here and post it to my YouTube channel. Oh, now my camera is off. Yeah, my camera's off. That's cute.